Hello!
Hello!
Welcome to the Knitting a Good Yarn podcast.
Happy January. Happy 2023.
I'm happy it's 2023.
Are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't mind actually 2022. Well, I met you in 2022.
I know.
All these good things happened, so it was a great year, but I just have a really nice feeling about 2023.
Yeah. It's interesting sort of where we mark our new beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course, a new year is a new beginning, but I also feel like I feel like September is more of the new year for me than it is January. But this January, I do feel like it's a newer new year than other new years. Does that make sense?
It does. I feel the same. And we were talking about how our friend-iversary is actually just passed.
Yeah.
We met at, we had just started talking right before it, but the bingo ball at the Caddy Jacks podcast bingo ball is when we saw each other on Zoom. And then our friendship just
Blossomed.
kept going from there. So in some ways it's like we're starting year 2.
Yeah.
So it does feel like a beginning.
Yeah, there's a magic in the air around it.
Yeah.
So, I'm Jackie.
Carmen.
We are coming to you from a rainy, drizzly, foggy, sleepy Southern Ontario, Canada. And this is a knitting, storytelling, reflecting, fibre.
Will be, yes.
Fibery podcast.
Yes.
So if it's your first time joining us, hello, welcome. We're so glad you're here. If you're returning, thank you for being our pod pals. And we hope that you're cozy or comfortable, depending on what hemisphere you're in and what the season is, but that you are going to take some time to maybe hang out with us, to hang out with your knitting, to nourish yourself. And today, I have a lot of finished objects.
Oh my god. So she comes in and I'm like, how do you knit? Like, I want to watch her knit. Because I'm like, how did you get? Oh, I feel like I knit a lot. Like, but I don't have anywhere near what you got done.
Yeah, so, 2 things. But after the last podcast episode, I had a revelation, which when I told Carmen about it, she was like, yeah. I had a revelation, which is that I am a bulky weight knitter. Everything I knit is in double-stranded Nutiden on a US 8, 9, or 10.
It does help.
So whereas you have the tenacity and the love of sport to fingering weight yarn, knit in these incredibly complex, full-on cabled gorgeousness. And so it's kind of a funny thing because it being our friend anniversary, I was thinking about when we first started talking about the podcast and whether we were going to do a podcast. And one of the things that I said to you was, I'd love to do a podcast. But I'm a little bit worried that I'm not going to have enough things to show.
Yeah.
And then I packed up all of my stuff to come over, and I was just like,
in what kind of bag? What was the bag you brought?
You know those giant blue IKEA bags?
Big
I
IKEA
try and
bags.
limit myself to one IKEA bag.
I'm pretty sure it was an IKEA bag plus a basket.
It was, yes. There were 2 bags.
You're fine.
But bulky weight projects.
Yes, that's
just
true.
fly off the needles. And
you're fast.
And the other thing is, I don't know about you guys and sort of whether you have a knitting seasonality. I opened my YouTube account, 2 days ago after sort of being off devices for a couple of days, and went to my subscriptions, and I was like, everybody has dropped a knitting podcast episode that is one of their everything I made in 2022. They're all these roundups, and I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much knitting content and inspiration to pick up. But
yes,
one of the things that people do is they kind of catalog everything that they've knit over the year. And for me, I don't do that until bingo ball. Bingo ball will be my cataloging time, so I haven't done it yet.
Thank you, Caitlin and Jackie.
Thank you. But what does happen is the desire to finish up languishing whips. And so part of the reason why there are gajillion pose is because I'm not a monogamous knitter, and I just cast 13 things on, and then I'm like, I should probably finish that. So I finished a lot of things over the
So we have a
festive
deluge
season.
of-
So here are all the finished objects, and then you're gonna see nothing from me for 3 months.
You heard it here, folks. Not true.
Not true.
She's gonna come back and have like the same number, and I'll be like, "So, Jack, you remember all of your like plans on that? Like, you know, your reasoning? But we shall see."
Yeah, we'll see. But can we talk about this, please?
Well, it's so funny because I was like, "But we should start with
No,
more."
but
Like,
I need
look at this. We both were like, "Oh my god! Oh my god!" Okay. We will start because mine is like so bright that probably you want to like get it out of the way so you can like move on
so
to
beautiful.
seeing. But yeah, I
Oh
am.
gosh, and it feels so.
It right like it. Like I wish there was some way to have some tactile experience,
Touch-o-vision.
like with this. Because
Make it
it's-
happen, people. Touch a vision.
Oh my god! So if you've been with us for a little while, I cast this one on in August. This is the Mpo by Noma Ndlovu, and it came from a book from a beautiful store knitting yarn shop out in England, Stoke Newington, called Knit with Attitude. And they, at their 10-year anniversary, they created this book of lovely patterns. And so I went in there when we were in England and they had some samples that I tried on. And I will say that if I was just looking in this book, I don't even know if I would have gone for this pattern because it was calling for like basically half silk, half superwash merino. And I have or superwash blueface Leicester, I think. But over the past like year or so, I've kind of just gotten away from superwash. It hasn't been really something I've been gravitating to. So I probably wouldn't even have picked it up. But because I tried it on, it was so silky and heavy and it just draped so beautifully that I was like, I must knit this. I must knit it. Now you can go back if you want more information. A couple episodes back, I'll tell you all about it. The yarn I ended up using because they didn't have enough at that store was a beautiful merino and half merino, half silk. Actually, it's a DK. I will say this is a DK weight. Wool and yarn out from Ginger Twist Fibres, Ginger Twist Studios in Edinburgh. You can go back and get my whole story on this one. But this project, it took me this long to knit it, not because it was hard, because I didn't want it to stop.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to stop. I enjoyed every single round of this. This was my project this was my easy project that I would just pick up. And I know, but anyone who does cables, especially if you do cables without a cable needle, anyone understands what I mean by this because it's not hard. It's not hard.
Once you become a cable knitter,
yes.
you have to like get the cables.
You do. Yes.
And then it becomes an easy project.
Then it does. I will say I've got these little mnemonics that I use for whether it's like a right or a left cross. And then that really helps me, like, so I can just like read the knitting and know what to do instead of like I never have to look at the pattern.
Amazing.
But anyway, yeah. So I just finished this. It hasn't been blocked yet. I was saying to Jackie I might not block it because it's already as drapey kind of as I want it to be. And you can see it's like the same pattern in the back. So this colorway was supposed to be a colorway called Brighter Than Barbie, which was this very bright pink. Actually, in fact, it's even a little bit brighter than this one is. But this was one of their one-of-a-kinds where they sometimes when they're making Brighter Than Barbie, something goes a little off and they get these little bits of purple in it. And I loved it when it was here, but now with the sleeves, I love the stripe. And then because of it, I couldn't see the purple before, but now because I have the stripe here, I can see the little bits of stripe that kind of go through.
Did you do helical knitting?
Oh God, no.
I just wondering.
You know the answer to that. Helical knitting. I mean, bravo to people who do it. I think
Who alternate hand-dyed yarn skeins to
every round.
So every round you sort of switch from one to the other because each skein will have variations.
Yeah.
But that's amazing.
It's amazing. I loved how it worked. And it really was, again, it's a good example of me, like, especially me last year, which is really embracing my, like, let's just see what happens kind of part of me. And like, let's see what the universe gives me. And it'll all work itself out. So I didn't plan my skeins at all. I just assumed it was all going to be fine, which is ridiculous because it's one of a kind stuff. The purples, you're like, they seem so red. Sometimes it would look like the purple was so much more in one skein, and I'd be like, maybe I should have done helical knitting. Maybe I'm going to end up with like splotches, but like, I mean, can you see it anywhere? No, I love it.
I also feel like this is a testament to Ginger Twist.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like,
honestly. Like, oh yeah, yes, thank you. Look at the consistency of the color even, like the pink. Like, I don't know if it's coming out, but I don't see anywhere where I changed.
No.
Like in this at all.
No. It's perfection. That's why I asked, because I was like, I'm pretty sure when I saw this as a whip, there was only one ball that I just kept like.
Oh yeah. I don't like double, if I can avoid double balls, I do like 2 at a time sleeves. I don't do them because of the double ball. I don't like the like flipping around. We could, could get kind of funny on that. Oh my gosh, sorry for, you probably just shook a little bit because my dog just ran into the camera thing. Anyway. Okay. I already talked about it, so I'm like, was there anything else I needed to say? I just think everybody should knit this pattern. It's, you know, and I actually was communicating a bit with Noma, and she was saying that this is her only pattern that she's knit twice. Like, she's like, it's so lovely. Like, it's just so lovely. And now, okay, so I told you that it's in this book, which I would highly recommend because there's so many beautiful patterns. And I was going to show this one. Oh, it's in black, so let's see. Can you see? It's like a little cardigan with lace. I've got some wool from Brittany from Crux Fibres that's in a like burgundy wine color that is just love story that I bought for this. So I will, hopefully that'll be sometime soon. That's only 2 skeins, so for my size. So, which I think was going to be 2 or 3.
How much did you use? What do you remember? What
Thank you.
Size?
Yes, actually I do, because I just got it off. I used a US 6, so 4mm needle, just under 5 skeins. I haven't weighed it yet, but I was so worried.
Yarn Chicken?
Yes, because we actually, so, I'm blanking on her name, but the girl at Ginger Twist, when I bought this, we were talking about the Yarn Chicken because I actually had less, the yardage that I bought was less than what the pattern said. And we were both like, but it's gonna be fine, right? and then we were like, yeah, you know, and then I actually had an idea though. They had this really bright orange that I was like, if I needed to, I was gonna have my sleeves be a bright orange just at the bottom.
Like a color block.
Yeah, just to like finish it off. But it ended up being fine. But I will say thank you for jogging my memory of these dogs. We've got 2 dogs in here today. I don't know if Lily wants to make an appearance.
She might.
Lily, do you want to come here? Good girl. A little different size than mine. So we've got 2 terriers. I ran into somebody on the street. I'm always all over the place, eh? Ran into somebody on the street. I have a Chihuahua terrier, and Lily's obviously a Wheaton. And I ran into this woman, and she had a terrier, and we were walking, and our dogs were doing whatever. And we were talking about terriers, and she goes, you know, my vet calls them terrorists. And I'm like, oh, I can see it. I mean, no, but they are like, they've got their attitudes.
They do.
Cuties. They do. So yes, so hopefully this doesn't get knocked over, but if it does, that's nothing new.
We've done that before.
We've been there. It'll be fun. So I did end up, this was actually one where when I looked at the schematic and I was trusting my instincts, I know I think they're gonna lose this. Sorry. It's real life. This is how we do things.
This is how we do.
Yeah, Lily, that's Frisco's favorite toy, so he's not gonna share that. No way. Okay. When I looked at the schematic, I was like, I don't know if I'm starting to like pay attention to numbers and things like that and the way I like my sweaters and not just necessarily only following the pattern. So I know that I like my sleeves a little bit smaller than most of the the patterns. So, and this was a, you know, go up, drop, shoulder kind of thing. So you're picking up stitches.
Bottom up, then you split front and back. So it's in the round initially.
In the round to here.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you do your back, then you do your front, and you split it a little here. So you do these two. And then you're picking up your stitches here.
Okay.
And I've always wondered about, like, I think I had this idea that if you don't pick up the stitches they say, then there will be some kind of puckering or something. Like, I'm like, can you pick up? But I know I'd heard people like say, oh, I did a different size for my sleeves. So I was like, okay, well, I'm potentially running out of wool anyway. And as I'm picking up, I'm like, I think I like this. So I picked up quite a few less stitches. I think it was something like, it was supposed to be 66 and I picked up 52, something like that. And then I just changed the decreases. Like, I didn't decrease right away, and then like I waited a little bit longer, and then I just kind of winged it and got down to where I thought. So my sleeves are a little bit smaller than the pattern would suggest, and I did a size 2, so you'll need a little more yarn if you do it the same way.
And also you were saying that you are knitting with a DK and the pattern is...
No,
it is a DK.
DK.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a
you
DK
just had
sweater.
less yardage than called for in the
Yes.
size, like that was recommended in the pattern for the size that you knit.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is the first time I've ever done that, which you might think is funny because I'm such a like, whatever, it'll be fine. But like, I always make sure that at least I'm over. I want extra buffer. Because you're like, right, you know, you're knitting and you're like, what if it's not enough? But the orange saved me because I was like, oh, it would be really cute with like these little like orange cups.
I also feel like your I don't know if it's bracelet or like even slightly shorter than bracelet is like your preferred sleeve length.
I do, although funny enough, without, I'm wearing a, like
Can
a
we talk about her
flannel.
styling for a second? Because this, I mean, I knew this was coming because I have been following along. And I was like, this is not a Jackie knit, but I want it. And I wanted it this whole time. And I was like, okay, I don't have to have one of everything that Carmen has. And then she just like casually saunters down. And now that you've added the shirt, I'm like, drop everything, go online.
Must happen.
Ginger Twist Studios, Brighter Than Barbie, purchase. Also go out and purchase a collared shirt in this exact color.
A
flannel
buffalo
green.
plaid. Yes, the shirt. Oh,
So good.
Thank you. You know what's funny? I will say, like as usual in Carmen, like so we went on a little road trip last week, and I brought this knitting, and so it was 5 hours of driving, and I was finishing this up, just the top. So I had finished this at the place that we were at, like everything, and then I was just putting the collar on, but no sleeves. And we're in the car, and it started getting a little cold, and I was moving on to another finished object that I have. And I was getting cold, and I was like, well, why don't I just throw my sweater on? Like, it's literally right here, I'll just throw it over. And I happened to be wearing this shirt, and I'm like, ooh, I like the green. Like, I like the green with the pink.
The green does something, for me, the green does something for the pink.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it like grounds the pink in a way that I think is really gorgeous. And there's something about the juxtaposition of like the green and the collar, which is like maybe a bit more like traditional cable-y kind of mood, and the pink that I feel like lifts the whole thing to another level. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I am thrilled. I'm thrilled that it was worth finishing it, because to have this means I can't knit it anymore.
Do you want to knit me one?
Kind
I'll
of.
buy the wool.
I kind of do.
You're...
You know what? I feel like this could be like my half and half. Like it sounds like ridiculous, but I love this.
Yeah.
These took no time. These were a day each. Nothing.
All right. This is
If you weren't wearing this, you should try it.
I do want to try it.
No.
We'll do a swapperoo at some point.
Okay.
But I mean, if you felt so inclined to knit the body, I'll knit the sleeves. That's a fair trade, right?
I do agree. This was the worst of it for me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thank
It's
you.
gorgeous.
And I don't know if I did finish when I was saying about
that's
the
right.
book.
Sorry.
It's also, I'm almost positive it's available as a single pattern too, that you can get through Noma's Ravelry. so you don't have to buy the whole book, but I would say that the book is also wonderful. And Knit with Attitude has, if you go back to our previous episode, they have a great story. They care, like all the wool that they carry, all the brands have a good story behind them in terms of people that care about animals or care about the environment or both, or female led or whatever. So
yeah. See, I came thinking, if you watched last episode, I went on like a cable bender. I was like, I think I'm done. I think it's complete. I'm on to the next thing now. I'm like, nope.
No. Not if I have anything to do with it.
So, yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I think, in my mind, superwash merino and silk isn't like again, it's not like the traditional cable choice.
Yes.
But it works so well.
It does. And I thank you for bringing that, because I also want to make that point, particularly, first of all, this isn't locked.
Mm-hmm.
I have a flannel shirt underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still not feeling like, like when
the tightness we were talking
about, cables sometimes. Yeah. I mean, and I love that feeling. Sometimes I want a feeling where you're just like, I'm surrounded by like a fisherman's like Aran sweater, like whatever. That's lovely. But there is something so easy to wear with this, and I can put on just like something small underneath it and wear that, and and it's just super light, super drapey, lovely. Yeah, I would highly recommend it.
I'm gonna try this on without the shirt underneath, and we'll come back. We'll do a little outfit switcheroo, and then you can come back. We'll come back and you can see sort of how things look different, because that's the thing that I always find so exciting.
Yes.
If you've been watching this podcast for a while, Carmen, I will knit similar sized sweaters.
Yes.
But things that work for me don't work for her, or things that work for her don't work for me. And so I often like covet, and then I try it on and I'm like, this. Right?
Cool.
Yay!
Not now though, right?
No, not
okay.
Not the second. At some point.
And if we forget,
could possible.
I will be sure in my, like, 'cause I haven't taken pictures for this yet, but I'll be sure to, maybe I'll wear it with a different kind of way.
Just to see.
Just to put them on there.
Yeah.
Okay, I went on. Well, but I should have gone on, because I love this so much.
Yes.
So excited. So can I start by saying, when I first saw this pattern, it did not come out, it did not jump out to me. It wasn't exactly, like, I could see, and I know this designer makes gorgeous things, so I was like, oh, I should just try it anyway, but I was like, nope, this one, nope. And then she comes in with this on, and I'm like, okay, well, same thing. Now I'm knitting this.
So, this is the Rural Symphony Pullover by Ailbiona McLochlainn, heavily modified. So, let me pull up. I apologize for the background noise of the two puppies.
Well, and Lily just got Frisco's favorite toy. She was waiting for that, I can tell. She booted it over to the side,
Terriers.
So it squeaks, so if he hears it, we'll see what happens.
Okay, so this is, let's see, how do I do this so that it, okay, so this is the sample. This is the Rural Symphony Pullover by Ailbiona McLochlainn. And when I saw the pattern, I was like, the shawl collar is a dream. And I have to have the shawl collar. But
correct.
The motif didn't speak to me.
Yes.
It's a beautiful motif. It just wasn't my aesthetic or my style. So I decided to throw caution to the wind and knit it with the motif from the Junko Okamoto Twigs design, which is one of my like top aspirational knits. Maybe I'll knit it this year, maybe. But as you guys know, I audition everything on bulky big needles before I commit to a sport or fingering weight.
It's a sport or fingering?
It's fingering.
It's fingering.
It's fingering, it's color work, and the pattern is absolutely gorgeous. Look it up if you don't. Okamoto is one of my amazing things. But it's a fingering weight sweater, and I think when I looked at the pattern, you cast on somewhere between 200 and 300 stitches, and you're doing stranded color work top to bottom, and there are all these super long floats.
Oh.
And so I actually have, you know, I tried to cast the sweater on in Nutiden Yarn in these colorways, holding it single as a fingering, and it didn't, you couldn't actually see the motif. Okay. So when this pattern came out, because Ailbiona is a genius and the way that she designed it, I was like, I think I can sub out the motif. And so that's basically what I did. So this pattern is knit bottom up. It is bottom up in the round. It's you create a steek here, and there's armhole steeks. So you basically knit a giant tube, my favorite.
Yes.
Then you steek, you pick up the stitches and knit the arms down, and then you knit the shawl collar separately, and then you seam, there's a neck steek, and then you attach it. So here's what I will say.
A mattress stitch or something? Or okay, keep going.
So I am like shocked that this is done because it's everything that I don't normally do. It's bottom up,
right?
Seaming.
Yes.
And there was like this giant, I don't know if this is gonna work out because, you know, motif placement is important.
Yes.
And scale is important. And I'd taken something that was like a fingering weight piece and just slapped it on. And what I also did is, because the size of the charts of the various motifs of the Twigs pattern that I wanted to use, they didn't go into the numbers in the pattern perfectly.
Right.
So I cast on 160 stitches in order to make the pattern motifs work, because they were multiples of 8.
Okay.
And then I just,
and instead of what would be the norm, what would her?
I don't remember.
Actually, we shouldn't
tell it,
so
but it's so I modified, and then I just like went for it. And I have to
and
say,
it wouldn't have any decreases, right? Because you're
No.
doing this tube, so that is helpful with the
Yes.
motif. Because
Yeah.
I was wondering how you're going to do all the decreases with.
yeah, so there aren't. So anyhow, rambling on about the process, but
We
bottom
love the
line, I love
process.
it. I love it. I love it. I will tell you that I am, because it's knit in a giant tube with steeks, you really can't try it on. So I think I'd like knit it up until here, and then I was like, this is your last opportunity to try it on. If you do this pattern, don't do it, because it will be the most demoralizing feeling of your entire life. Because I like pulled it up and it got up to here, and it was just like the most unflattering, horrible tube top of my life. And I was just like, what have I done? However, the reason this is finished was because the need to know, is this gonna work out and will I love it, was so extreme that I just kept going.
Yes.
Just kept going.
Oh.
So I made a couple of modifications other than the motif. The other thing that I did is, if you look at the sample, it's knit with a lot of positive ease. It's suggested sort of 2 to 4 inches of positive ease, and I knit it with like 1 centimeter of positive ease. Similar to Carmen, I like a tight sleeve, and so again, I picked up way fewer stitches for a really tight sleeve. And then I love how the knitting community works, because right as I was about to start establishing the steeks, Jackie from Candy Jack's Knits did like a little tutorial around the steek. So it's a 7-stitch steek here and here. And one of the tips that she had done in one of the patterns that she had steeked is to do the 7-stitch steek as like a purl, and then 5 knits, and then a purl, which makes the steek fold back onto itself. So maybe let's see. I don't know if will this show. And because I know that I don't want to seam, guys, I didn't seam it. But because that little purl stitch is there, it just folds back onto itself, which makes it super easy. Because part of my hesitation around things like steeking and seaming is it's not a skill that I do well.
Yeah.
And so it's like stressful. I'm like, am I doing it right?
Totally.
Am I seaming through the right like row? So
Yeah.
so those are the like helpful mods that I found super helpful, that in the pattern, to make things straightforward, Ailbiona says you just keep knitting the motif through the steek, and I didn't. I alternated 2 colors, and I had those like purl at the column, so that as I was knitting and as I was cutting, it's like I knew that I knew I had something to follow where I wasn't worried that I was going to kind of hop over into the other.
So it didn't, because some things, because I still haven't steeked, but I know a lot of patterns you have like this little checkerboard thing to like tweak it. So she was not even.
So Ailbiona doesn't have you do the checkerboard because her motif is the like size of the pattern repeats and the floats do a basically good enough job. And really with the motifs that I picked, it would have done that as well, but it was sort of me knowing myself and being like, I'm gonna feel better if I know where I am. And so those were the things that I did that I found really, really helpful. And this is Nutiden Yarn.
I'm sure by now.
Like, do I even need to state it? So this is Nutiden Yarn. The main color is Ornithogalum, which is a beautiful cream.
I have that one. Good. I love this.
And the colors that I used for contrast were Lugnet, which is the sort of gray, Shishbanea, which is this sort of like, I don't know, rosy, purpley pink gray. And then there is a combination of Dvala and Hearts on a String. And so I cannot take credit for this genius color combination because way back in the day, not that long, but Liv Ulven of Woodlands Knits released a sweater called the Heritage Sweater.
I have mine upstairs.
You do? I thought you gave it to your mother.
I did. I got it back.
Yes. Okay.
I was like, are you wearing that enough? She goes, I wear it. I'm like,
I think this episode is going to require a pause and like a little Jeopardy moment.
You keep talking. Okay. I can grab this really fast.
So anyhow, Carolyn of Honor Air, she knit a swatch for that particular heritage sweater, which was the combination of the cream and the gray Lugnet and Shishbanea. And it has just been stuck in my head forever and ever. And so this seemed like an opportunity for me to try and use that color combination because I felt like it matched the aesthetic. Yes, that's the Heritage Sweater by Liv Ulven.
I love this.
It's so beautiful.
Oh.
So you knit yours, this one in two colors.
Over Nejden and Vilgot, which is a slight pink. So kind of a tealy, dark teal blue. Yeah. I'm out of breath. I just ran upstairs.
So yeah, I love this sweater so much. When it was finally done and seamed, which was actually a joy, and it was like one of those things that I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. And you often talk about these moments where you have patterns where you don't know how things are gonna like come together.
Almost every time.
And then when they come together, it's like magic. This is one of those patterns. Like as you're going, you're like, how is this gonna work? And you know, when you first steek this, which I've never steeked anything before, I was just like, I put it on and again, I was just like, what is gonna happen? But it just comes together. If you haven't steeked before, or if you haven't done stranded color work, I really actually think that this is like, if you're feeling motivated and adventurous, I think it's worth your while because the instructions are amazing. Ailbiona's patterns are so well written and so clear, and they give you so many different options in terms of like, here's the gauge that I offered, but if you're off gauge in your row gauge, or if you're off gauge in your stitch gauge, here's how you can adjust and modify. And it's like all those pieces that allowed me to kind of make a version for me. And I adore it.
It's beautiful.
Adore it. This shawl collar is everything to me.
It's so beautiful.
And actually, admittedly, my favorite view is the back, because I think in the back you can really see this motif, which I adore so much.
And this ended up, did you do it on purpose to have that end up perfectly in the middle?
I did do that on purpose.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Oh. It's worth forethought, people. Forethought is good.
You know, shockingly, there was less forethought than I think one would expect, in the sense that I just knew, okay, this needed to be in the center, but I didn't actually plan out the motifs in advance.
I like that.
I just kind of had the thing printed out, and I was like, okay, there's a sequence that Ailbiona does in her pattern, and so I was just like, okay, what motif fits in terms of numbers, in terms of the sequence and the size, and so then I just sort of made it up.
Oh my god!
So that's I've called it the Twiggy Symphony.
Oh,
and I love it so much. And you know what's a really high compliment for a knitter? When a non-knitter sees your garment and they're like, where did you get that?
Yes.
Or like,
where
can I buy one? And so I got like the highest compliment because it was from my husband. And he asked, he's like, will you knit me one?
Oh, well, no kidding, because this is a very, like, it's funny because it looks so feminine and like light on you.
Oh, thank you.
It looks beautiful, and I could see it I could see it working on basically anybody and having a different look, like kind of maybe depending on the colors that you choose or how much ease you give it or the weight of the wool that you work with.
I think, you know, when I saw the pattern and I was like, I don't know if I want to do color work, what I planned to do initially is I just bought the pattern and I thought I'll just knit a one color one, which I still think is on the table, because it was so enjoyable and made me feel like just like leveled up in my knitting, because I've steeked and I've seamed and all these kinds of things. But I think it would be it would be great to do in one color. Although you have to figure, I don't know how you steek with one color because you don't get that like weaving.
I guess you'd have to like put your I don't know,
something in
there. Purl and knit or something
to think about, something to consider. But I do think that a second one is in the works, and whether it ends up being for my husband in a solid color or if I end up knitting one for myself that's a solid color. I think the only what I was contemplating is it's a really nice, I really love how it's where the V sits in terms of it being a shawl collar. I wonder for a sort of a more menswear look, whether this would be a little deep,
maybe a little taut,
so maybe needing to move the steek up a little bit taller. I guess you could do like one of these, get like a little button, but that's a little modification that I think I'd like to figure out. Maybe for my second version, the single color version, having one that's sort of a little bit tighter this way in terms of the shawl collar.
Beautiful. I think a little collared shirt would look nice on you.
So
it's
highly
amazing.
Recommend.
Plus, Jackie, since it took you only 2 seconds to knit it, you know, might as well like knit a few more.
Well, okay, so the pattern gauge is 17 by 22.
Okay.
My gauge was 16 by 20. And so, you know, I would say like maybe the arm, the depth of the armhole is maybe a little bit longer than she would have recommended in the schematic. But again, I did what you did, Carmen, which is just picked up fewer stitches around, around the armhole to get the arms that I wanted. So it really does fly off the needles, particularly if you're not doing screened color work. And so as the knitter of simple stockinette sweaters in all the different shapes and sizes and silhouettes, this is just gonna get added to my compendium because it was such a joy. So beautiful.
And you know, we've talked about the Nutiden, because Nutiden, when you're making more of a worsted weight or Aran weight, we use double, like so you hold like two strands of Nutiden. And if you aren't familiar with Nutiden, it's unspun yarn. And it breaks kind of easily, but if you learn to work with it, it's pretty easy to work with. But so two strands of Nutiden for your regular color, and then the color work would also be 2-stranded. Which would mean that it's 4 strands at some, like during the color work rows, you're gonna have 4 strands actually there. How do you feel about
you know what?
Or
so these are older colorways, and so I think actually let me tell you the stats before I forget to tell you the stats. So in terms of weights, I used 282 grams of the cream Ornithogalum main color, and then my contrast colors in total it was 96 grams for all the 3.
Okay.
And but what I would say if you're thinking about knitting this is the colorways that I used were all older colorways of Nutiden, and because each colorway sort of is made up of a different combination of heritage Swedish breeds, they tend to be different. And so all of the part of the reason I chose these particular colors is because I didn't want to have a super I didn't want the really like thick thing, and so all of these were quite thin,
so
like
each
thin,
individual
silky version.
Sorry. Hold on. You keep talking.
So I find it to be really quite, to be really good in terms of temperature. Like it's above 0 degrees and I don't find it too hot. And this particular blend also had a lot of lamb's wool in it. And so I feel like that the particular blend of cream had a lot of lamb's wool in it. And the contrast colors were all very like drapey. And so I think that really, again, worked for me to have the sensory feeling that I wanted to. But
it's beautiful.
I mean, I do have to say that I do recommend that you go and look at the pattern and look at all of the different versions that the testers and other people who have knitted it have, because again, it's a really interesting like study of how color and proportion and ease completely changes a garment. Completely. And so I also have to say that this color combination was inspired by Carolyn, and then also by Ellen, who you may know from our Inspired by Ellen knit along, that she also did a low contrast version because the samples were all sort of a dark main color with like a light contrast color for the motif. And when I sort of saw the black and white version of Ellen's, which was reversed, I was like, done. I am gonna knit this, and I am gonna knit it as a color work. And
and they really, like, I mean, when you walked in and it was such a fitted version, it was just so significantly different from what the original looked like, and it's that just amazes me. And because I'm pretty sure the sleeves were quite
the sleeves
large
and the
on
sample
the
are
original
quite large
too, like just like more of a balloony sleeve, like lovely, right? But it just didn't catch me. But now this is like wow.
So it was similar for me. I think it looks beautiful on the model. Always, and so many testers versions which were like a little bit larger, but we like what we like.
We do,
and we knit what we like, or hope that you're knitting what you like. What else do I want to say about
and then our friends knit something that we don't think we like, and then we do. And then we need to knit what we didn't realize we liked.
So what else did I want to say about the pattern? The pattern, like all of Ailbiona's patterns, comes with, like, you're buying one pattern, but actually it nested inside the pattern is a whole bunch of different options. So in the pattern, there's this version. There's instructions on how to make it a vest instead of a sweater. There's also an option to make it cropped, and I did actually initially think about doing a cropped one because I'm a really lazy knitter, and I was like, how much stranded color work can I possibly do?
And then when you tried it on, you're like, oh, I guess I did.
Oh my god! Oh god! Make it longer. That's actually what happened. I knit according to the cropped specifications. So I was like, no, because like I just don't think that a tube of unblocked fuzzy wool about yay long
too, which kind of keeps it together when you don't like
put on around your midsection, like there are harder, like this way, like a skirt, like a skirt. It's just hard to look at that knitting and be like, this is going to be the most beautiful sweater in the world because it's like 1/3 of the sweater with none of the sweater details. But I was really I was like, I have made a grave mistake.
And you just said,
and then I was like, no,
I trust
Ailbiona, and I'm going to go forward with it. I will say that halfway through the sweater, I was like, I made the right decision. There's no way I can knit the original pattern because it's kind of genius because some of the motifs are really potato chippy in terms of, like, you know, your floats are like 2 or 3 or 4 and you don't have to read. And so they just kind of, it goes along. So like this one and this one and this one, it's just like, you don't need to look, and so it's really meditative. But then the sections that, at least for me, I find really beautiful, like this motif, and at the back, this kind of top motif, and this motif, I'm like square by square. Square by square.
Right. What's next? Worth it, Jackie. Worth it.
So I was like, okay, my need to have the twig sweater has now been satisfied.
Oh, yes.
Until this happened. Until you brought this down and you were holding it next to this, and I thought, oh my god.
I see that with the color of it. This
oh
is
my
navy.
God. I need a twig sweater.
Oh, I love it.
That's this as the main color, and this as the contrast.
Yep.
And I think that might do it for me. I think the
will be
excitement of the colors
will get you through.
will get me through.
Do you remember? Well, remember way back two episodes ago when we were talking about what we like, and then there was this whole thing of like, well, I don't like 500 stitches, and then I was like, maybe I do like 500 stitches, and I'm like now really I like the idea of I want to knit a very tight, well, I think I said cardigan with light fingering weight, like maybe on 2s. Like there's something actually exciting about that. So maybe if this was your whole project, right? Like you didn't need to think about it for the whole, like getting it done right away, but all the year.
You guys want to do a twig knit along? You guys want to do a, like, we can
no,
call it.
You're going to put pressure on yourself to make
true.
it.
Let this
by
year
December.
be the toothpick
How about by
knits.
December?
We're doing a toothpick knit cal.
Ooh,
and everything.
yes, okay.
And the requirement is that you
yes
choose a pattern that you're knitting
Size
on
3 needles
toothpicks and lower. And it's like a aspirational legacy project. And we're going to start it now.
Yes.
And maybe
It ends December 31st.
It ends December 31st.
Yes.
You want in? Does
Well,
anyone
we're
want
gonna
to
do it.
Does anyone knit,
So come
want
with
to knit
us.
the twig sweater with me? Because I feel like
I think
if
I
I'm
might.
gonna do it, there's no chance that I'm gonna do it on my own.
Yes, you will. You're amazing.
Well,
but it will be much more fun.
There's
if
no
other
chance that
people
I can
do it.
sustain my own momentum if I do it on my own.
I disagree.
There are so many sad unfinished objects out there in my home.
But
they're all on toothpick. on toothpick.
Those are gonna come back. Those are gonna come back.
I also have to say something about needle size for a moment. I'm a super loose knitter.
Oh yes.
And so if I'm gonna knit a fingering weight sweater, like let's say the stitch gauge is somewhere between 22 and 24, what needle size do you think I'm using?
00?
Like a 1. Like a 1. So it really is going to be the toothpick knit for me.
So many sweaters, so many things are in your category of toothpick knitting.
Yeah. But I don't know this.
Oh, I know. This is like, I was like, this needs to happen.
Oh, it needs to happen.
So nice.
And I actually I have a Como. Oh no, is it Corriedale? Is it Corriedale and mohair or Cormo and mohair? I'm so sorry. I will bring it at some time, but it's a Canadian spun yarn from Lindsay of Hello Stella that is a very close match to this color.
Perfect. And then
I just need to find the perfect bright.
Yeah. Well, you can get this one at Ginger Twist. So, and she makes it all her different bases. Have a look at Ginger Twist Studio. Like,
okay,
they ship worldwide, and beautiful stuff, and so many options. Are you showing? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to tell the story of this one. How you got this color? And
you have to tell it.
No, you tell it.
Okay. All right. So, do we get more or less organized? I don't even know.
Less,
definitely less.
Thank you for
the viewer who left a comment last time that's like, you guys are a mess,
oh
and
my
I
God.
love it. And I was like, yes.
I haven't responded yet. Whoever, if you're watching, that was the biggest compliment I've ever received. I'm like, yes, this person. I like this person.
We're a mess, and we love it.
We are.
We're gonna switch to dream knitting now. So for those of you who have not been introduced to the wise and wonderful Amy Palko and the bright and enthusiastic Rebecca's from the Creabea Knitting Podcast.
Yep.
Oh, everything we talk about will be
notes.
included in the show notes, which you can find in the description box below or in our Ravelry group. We'll include everything down below. They are running a Lento knit along, and the Lento is a sweater from Lina Magazine. I'll link their podcast below so that you can hear all the details from them. But essentially, it is a raglan sweater, all stockinette, that I believe is it DK weight? You can hold a fingering and a
plus
mohair together.
Fingering plus lace.
And so this is about the time of the year after, tackling this project and some of the other things that you'll see, and I'm like, I I need a gentle comfort knit. I need to
Yes,
go
a
back to
nice
simple stockinette, a nice raglan. It's been a while, but
not too small
not too small gauge. And
gauge.
also I was like, I will not knit another Nutiden stockinette sweater until February. So I'm totally lying. I'm totally lying. I'm totally gonna go home and cast one on.
Yeah.
But I received this beautiful, there's 2 skeins. I've only brought one. Beautiful skein of yarn from Ginger Twist Studio from this wonderful, amazing human being who had the opportunity to go there.
Yes. And buy it with Amy Palco, by the way.
Yes. And so I sent Carmen on a mission and I said, would you like to play Yarn Oracle and just walk into the store and just get me whatever it is that you feel like is for me? And I had some things that I was thinking about that I looked at from the website that I was like, ooh, I'd really like that. But your image is never the same as the actual thing.
Yes.
And so I asked Carmen, do you want guidance or do you not want guidance? And she's like, I don't want any guidance. I'm just gonna go and feel it. And I'm gonna come home with something that's so you. Do you want to tell your story?
Well, no, you see. I want to know how you tell it.
Okay. So
Should have gotten the other one.
What I remember you telling me was that you went in and you followed your intuition and you found a particular skein of yarn, and that the people who were in the shop with you were like, is Jackie ready for this?
Yes. And now remember, if you go back, this was when Jackie felt that this colorway was too saturated. This is where we're at. This is where we're at that time, like creams, lights, neutrals.
This
was Jackie.
Yeah.
I mean, some Devala might have been a little bit.
It was a little too saturated.
Yeah, a little bit tough.
Too punchy.
So I find a colorway. I'm like, I just feel this one. But then very wisely, the other 2 people were like, you know, though, like you should get the colorway that not the one that you like, but she may not like it. So I end up getting this other thing. Do you remember? Cheetos.
Yes, you ended up getting me, you got me 2 things.
I got 2 things.
You got the thing that you felt like.
No, I didn't.
No.
I got no. So I got convinced. I was like, this is good. I got a very neutral, dyed with avocado, beautiful cotton. We're still gonna do it.
Yeah.
We'll tell the Cheeto story later about this. Very funny. But anyway, I get this. And I'm like, this makes sense. It makes sense. And I can't get it out of my head, this color. And I'm like, she needs it. She needs it. I need to bring it to her. And if she hates it, I love it so much, I'll just knit it. It'll be fine. So that's this long story for this lead up here.
But this skein, when Carmen handed it to me, I could have wept. Well, I almost because I was just so, first of all, like, how lucky am I that you brought me along to Edinburgh and that you got to have this experience with Amy, and that I got to vicariously live through hearing about it, and then also through like the tangibility, the physicality of a skein of yarn. Yeah. And it's so, like, it really did speak to me. It's so beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing ever. And it's like on my yarn altar, basically. Aww. And I look at it because it's so incredibly beautiful. And I was like, I don't know what to do with it. How many patterns have I sent you being like, we'll knit this one. Yep. No, we'll knit that one. Yep. No, we'll knit this one, because it's such a special skein that I didn't know what to do with it.
And we should say, well, it's not that big a deal. Wait, this is so important for you to know. No, there were only 2 skeins. So usually for us, a sweater in a fingering size, like to get either a shawl or a sweater, generally about 3 skeins will be pretty safe. So 2 skeins is a bit like, oh, like I wasn't sure, but there were only 2, but I knew it needed to be this.
Yeah. So this,
oh my God.
This is poison apple. Look at it.
Look at it.
Look at it.
And it's called poison apple, people. It is a poison, like candy apple.
It is the most,
oh my God.
Gosh.
It's so pretty.
It's so beautiful. It's in sweet flax 4-ply, so it's 50% baby alpaca, 25% linen, and 25% silk, and it is so beautiful and luscious. Carmen taught me something about choosing colors, which is that you take the skein of yarn and you go like this, and you see how impacts your coloring and your complexion, and I feel like it's so good.
It's so good.
Like red would
so
not be
good.
one of my colors, but I realize I feel like red should be one of my colors.
It needs to be.
It needs to becoming one of my colors.
Look at it.
And so it's perfect because the lento, for the lento, you would, for my size, with a, finished bust size of somewhere between 38 and 40.
Yep.
The recommended amount is 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn.
But of this.
Of this specifically.
Because I saw this on Ginger Twist. She's making kits, and
Yeah.
I saw that it was only 2 of this.
Yes.
And I'm like, perfection.
Perfection. So this is going to be cast
Except
on.
that you need to get the
for the knit along.
mohair.
I have gotten some mohair from Sonder Yarn
You
Co.
ordered it?
That is in the mail, and hopefully will be a nice color match.
It'll be beautiful.
But this is getting cast on for the knit along, which is like, I think it just started and goes until the end of March. So this is happening. And this is also a public service announcement that, listen, I completely support all of you who are trying to stash down and trying to be intentional about your purchases and purchasing. And I used to be like this. I would only purchase yarn if I would purchase yarn at least with a project in mind, so that I didn't end up with all of these like things in my stash that I ended up like not knowing what to do with.
Yes.
Which I definitely have a section.
Me too.
But sometimes you just need to wait.
You just need to wait. It will
And the
come.
perfect thing comes along. Like this.
If you buy it, it will come.
And so now I'm going to have a lento that I'm going to be knitting with Rebecca and Amy.
And me, because I'm going to do mine, because I bought one in the Lollybrock,
Yes.
colorway, which is a little purple.
With yarn from Ginger Twist Studios in Edinburgh. And again, so this will be such a meaningful piece. Be a meaningful stitch.
Oh, I love that.
So
that is going to be a meaningful
Amy.
stitch.
thank you, Ginger Twist. Thank you.
Isn't it amazing how that all worked?
Yes. Right? So all of those months, because when was this? July? August? Months. What pattern? What pattern?
July.
This one. That one.
Yeah.
This one. That one.
Yes. Oh yeah, coming back, it was August, and then I gave it to you.
Patience.
Yes. Well done.
So Ginger Twist, amazing.
Yeah, totally worth it. For even like us in Canada, like I will order. That would be worth paying shipping and duty.
And like
Beautiful.
baby alpaca.
It's
And silk.
you can't
It's
feel
so
it's
shiny.
so you can't like it's
Like-
well you can yeah you're seeing the shine there. It
like,
is gorgeous.
This is a pretty good. I feel like it's a pretty good. We're getting pretty good color
Yeah.
here.
I would say it might be a little
Maybe
darker.
there?
Yeah, exactly, maybe. But you're not. But then a more red than that.
Oh. Ugh. So
Poison apple. Beautiful.
here we go.
Beautiful.
There we go.
I love it.
Okay.
Before just because I brought it on, I just wanted to say
Yeah.
because, like, again, if you've been with us at all, this pattern, the heritage sweater, is by Liv Ulven. I always call her Liv because in English, like, it's like Olivia, so we can't say Liv, but I think it's Liv. She's a designer out in Germany, and I have knit so many of her patterns, but this was my first. This was the first pattern I ever knit by her. I test knit it. I saw her version, which was, I don't even remember now, a brown. I think it was in browns and whites. Yeah, and I tested this, and this was the first time I had just started with Nutiden, and I asked her if I was like, I looked at the gauge, it was 16, and I had just done one sweater by Teddy Lutzak. And it was the same gauge, and I'm like, would you be okay if I tried, like, because of course jump right into a colorwork all over colorwork sweater with this new wool that you're just starting to work with. And I was like, can I try it? And it ended up being so perfect for the pattern. Like, if you can't feel this, but look at the size of it. And it weighs like under 300 grams, I think. Maybe 330, I can't remember. But it's like, and I think I knit the size 3. And this is an all over colorwork. Now again, same thing as Jackie. So I knit this would have been, when?
I'm gonna put this on.
2, yes, please.
I'm checking.
A year and a half. It probably was in 2020. 2021.
2021.
Yeah,
It's 100% 2021.
Thank you. 2021. So they're thinner colorways, and oh my god, it's just so gorgeous. Yeah, it's hard to tell the actual front and back. I don't even, yeah, there were a little short rows, but I don't think very many. Anyway, it's just such a light, beautiful sweater. Oh my god, it's a dress on you. I love it. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
And after that was when Liv was like, whoa, Nutiden works really well with my stuff, like with my patterns. And so then she became part of all the Nutiden stuff. Oh my god, it's so gorgeous.
This is a hug in a sweater.
It is.
It's a hug in a
You
sweater.
put this one on just to like, it's so silky and like, Anyway.
These two colorways, Ver Nejden and Vilgot. I don't know if I actually told you this story. So Instagram is a funny thing because sort of things come across your stories and they obviously are from people. But this sweater and this color combination was one that like stopped me in my tracks. And so this is what I think of when I think of you before we were friends.
We knew each other.
Because I was just like, this is a genius color combo. This is a genius sweater. I remember your photos, and it was just like one that stuck in my head. And when we sort of actually met and became friends, I was like, I'm becoming friends with the girl who has the perfect sweater. That sweater.
Oh, I love it. See, and I needed it back. My mom did wear it, but I was like, I think I need this one back. I give sweaters away kind of like, this looks so good on you. I'll take it. I'll make another. And then I'm like, why do I do that? Because also it's like in Nutiden, so I can't make another. I don't have enough.
Make another.
But yeah, it's so beautiful. The neck, I think if I were doing it again, I think I would fold it. I was thinking about actually taking it out and then making it longer and then folding it under.
Was this knit top down?
Bottom up. So it's
sorry,
easy
bottom.
to...
Oh, so you could pick up again.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just had, because we brought it down, I felt like I just needed to talk about that one.
This is one of my favorite. That dark teal is one of my favorite.
Oh yeah, Caroline, it would be great. I know you never repeat colorways, but it would be great if you made something similar to Ver Nejden, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Ver Nejden? I don't. We never win.
I never get it right.
Okay.
Beautiful. Should I do a fast hat? Because that's my other finished object. So, although I don't know if I can put this on and the sweater, we might have to do it. I might have to do a change. Carmen. I was going to bring my little card for this wool, but I think I can remember it. Okay. Rewind. What am I going to rewind to? Let me think. I was knitting this sweater. I have another whip, which I showed before, the pressed flowers Cardis. I'll give a little update on that. But, I was knitting these things, and also like I actually was taking a bit of I like this.
It's so distractible.
Oh my god. Okay. Hang on, I just need to go cast this on. Okay. Yes. So I was knitting these other things. How did this come up? I think actually it came up from, blah, blah, blah. This wool is some low mileage wool from our wonderful friend, Brittany from Crux Fibres. I'm in love. If you haven't seen our podcast or other episodes, I am absolutely in love with everything that Brittany makes. The story behind the low mileage wool, we won't go into it again here, but just know she knows the shepherdess, she knows the sheep, she knows the animals, and they're local and fairly local in Canada, and everything's just processed in Canada. It's just about supporting the wool industry in Canada and good makers and all of this wonderful stuff. She has a low mileage wool make along happening right now. It just started January 1st. You can crochet, knit, make anything, as long as it's in a low mileage wool. So either her low mileage wool or something local to you, but it has to be 100% traceable. So
we'll drop a link to Brittany and her podcast in which she talks about the details, or the post or the podcast where she talks about the low mileage.
Yes. And you should check her podcast out too. There's just...
We're biased, but she's amazing.
She's amazing. And I want to say, I mean, because I hope it just is assumed that everybody knows, but it might not be assumed. So I'm going to say it. We do not get anything. Like we're not sponsored by anybody. We like buy all the stuff that we buy, and we'll continue to do that because I feel for me, I want it, well, for many reasons. I want to support these people making these wonderful wools. And also, like, I want you to know that when we're saying we love something, we really are loving it. Like, there's no pressure to say anything. We're saying it because we love it so much.
Yeah.
So she came out with, so she has a low mileage wool from a flock of sheep that she's been working with. There's a little bit left. There's of the previous clip, and now the next one's going to be probably end of January coming out. But in the meantime, the shepherdess she works with, Sierra from Crocus Country. Shepherdess?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She had some alpaca wool and some of her wool as well. So she had Gotland.
The details?
Oh, yes.
Okay. This
she
is
knows
the
when I'm struggling.
29%. This is 29% Gotland wool from the sheep Leia, who's one of Sierra's, one of the sheep from Sierra's, oh my God.
I know, right?
Flock.
I know.
Combined with 71% black Alberta alpaca. That's this.
And you can see how black this is. Now, part of this also is that I wanted black. Lately, I want black, like the deepest black I can get, which is hard in wool. Like, I find it doesn't actually, oftentimes black is quite dark gray that you get,
or
like
brown.
a nature black or brown. So I really wanted black.
The color of sheep.
It kind of works that way, I guess. What is this idea of a black sheep? I want a real black sheep, but there are black sheep. It turns out I have found them. But so when Brittany, I think it was on one of her podcasts I was watching, and she had just gotten this in from Sierra, like they had made this together, I think.
Sierra had actually had it spun at Rosebud Mill. Hang on. Rosebud River Fibre Mill a couple of years ago. So this clip is a couple years old. It's been waiting, and in their conversation, Brittany decided that she was gonna help Sierra get it out into the world, into the hands of those who love it and didn't know it even existed. So Brittany makes quickly a couple hats, and she does it on her knitting machine. And I look, and so first of all, I'm like dying from the color. It's what I want it. And then the hat was a knitting machine hat, and it was a double knit hat, right? I guess it comes out double layered or whatever. I don't have a knitting machine, but I loved it, and I love the drape. And so I was like, well, I'm making a hat, so I bought 2 skeins of this, and you were ordering, and so I was like, throw them into Jackie's package. So then I was like, okay, well, and now I'm a hat making queen because I don't need a pattern, blah, blah, blah. You just, I'm such a champ on this now. Takes one workshop, then does a hat the completely opposite way from that workshop, and now I'm just a queen at this. But I was like, well, I can make a double knit hat. First of all, I was like, maybe I'll double knit it, which is like not used, like that would have been way more work than needed. But I thought maybe I would double knit it then. Then I realized, well, no, actually, I could probably just like have a provisional cast on at the bottom, like knit a hat and then knit the other side and then join them at the top from the bottom. Interesting.
And as I was but then I was like, okay, well, then I have to think about all the math. So I was going and trying to find some patterns. It turns out there is a pattern on Ravelry for free that does something similar to that. But in the midst of doing that, I came across the Musselburgh hat, which everybody has knit, but
Apparently,
I had never really known anything about it. I had seen it come up, but not like, I didn't realize. Designer, Ysolda Teague. Thank you. Yes, Musselburgh hat, looks like Musselburgh, but as Rebecca from the Crea Band Knitting Podcast has pointed out, it's Musselburgh. Like Edinburgh.
Oh.
I'm probably still, bruh. Well, anyway, this hat. So, looks like a hat, right? But I thought it was just a hat, but it is not just a hat.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, it's a big tube. And in this one, even better than my idea, you start at the top and you don't swatch. You just start going, and then when you get enough and you can measure your inch, just like that workshop I took with Kate Atherley, you get to see like how much, and then you can use their schematic for the number of stitches per inch, and then it tells you how many to increase to, and then how long
then
to
it's
make
a tube.
And then it's a tube.
And it's stockinette.
Stockinette. And you go all the way down, and then at the end, see, I didn't even bother to do this because I could just stick it on up. Then you just decrease. So it's like it's a double tube, right?
Guys, it feels so good.
It's so silky. So this, you know, the alpaca with Gotland also is a very silky, oops, I went the wrong way. A very silky wool to begin with. So this whole thing, oh, come on, Car, you can do this. It's not that hard, just pop it.
Spooky things happen once the camera goes on. It's like we become less functional than normal.
Just shut down. Try this sometime. Put a camera in front of yourself and then be like, what? I can't remember my name.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Look at that. I love hats that kind of stick up
that are
I
like
never
gnomies.
really...
I call them gnomes. I call them gnomies because you get like a little...
I just
oh my god.
love it. I love it. And I
God.
wanted a hat that would be so warm. Like, it's double, you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's like you're wearing two hats.
And the drape is really,
It's
beautiful.
perfect. I also have not blocked this one. I think I might just leave it in there.
I don't block my hats.
I
feel like
sometimes
hats
do,
are-
it depends. Well, when I knit it too small and then I stretch it up like
That's when I block my hats.
Yes, exactly.
Or when it's too short and we're trying to accommodate our big heads and
Yes,
our big and tall heads.
I'm trying to get, it's because the black, it's like black, but then you can see there's a little bit of like light stuff in there. I don't know if that's coming out.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, I love this hat.
I love that
It took
hat.
a while.
Did it?
Well, because it's like, I think I used size 4 needles, so 3.5 millimeters. And it actually took more than a skein. Like, so, excuse me, probably like 120 grams, I would guess. I'd have to like measure it out. But it's not like, so it's not nothing, but it also is just lovely. So in the car, this was what I actually did a lot of knitting, and I practiced like not looking. Like that was this was one where I was like, okay, just look at these surroundings. And it got, you know, I want to level up where Jackie is with the like ribbing and things, because you're at that level, but I've got stockinette down. Watch out,
Okay.
Jackie. Here we go. Next cables. What? Oh yes, I can talk and see
So
cables.
if you're just trying, if this is your first time,
Oh, I know. I was
joining,
just
what we're
assuming.
talking about is being able to knit without looking. I can only actually knit stockinette on a 7 or higher. If it's less than a US 7, then I have to look for whatever reason. I think that's more psychological than
think so,
actual.
too,
I
'cause
think
it
if
can
I
be
were like
easier or
forced to.
less.
Also, like single-stranded Nutiden, it's helpful to like look every so often. But I somehow managed to train my hands to knit 1 by 1 ribbing without looking, and now every time I do it, I feel like I'm a rock star. Like, look at me doing 1 by 1.
She should feel like that. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It just means you have to knit a lot of 1 by 1 ribbing.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like a muscle memory thing. Anyhow,
True.
this hat is glorious.
I love it. And also, I do apologize. I'm glad that Jackie's always careful of this, like that I just assume you guys are hanging on every word we've ever said. So if we've had something in the past, you already know. But she realizes that might not be the case. Can I say, part of the reason it sticks up and doesn't fall down is because you have another hat in there that kind of keeps it up.
It gives it like structure.
Now she tried, so if you haven't seen the other podcast, she's gonna now try this hat on and look way better in it and make me like want to give it to her.
I'm gonna need to take measurements because it's like it's just the size is perfect.
It's so cute. Now,
oh my gosh.
Well, no, because we established last time that we both have quite large heads from this to here or something. So many people fold the brim. I could not fold this brim. It would be like a little like watch cap.
Well, it could be a little watch cat.
Oh, that is really sweet. Oh, it's really sweet.
Oh my gosh.
But you can keep knitting, obviously. Like you can knit and knit and knit, even if you have the same as us. But you want to knit like the 2 skeins and then have it like fold up.
So of
it's
course, after
pretty.
I saw this, I went and looked, and some people, what they do is like, you knit black on black on black, but some people will knit half of it in one color, half of it in another color, and then you have a 2-color hat, and then also like a hat that gives you a brim, and so I have now planned so many of these, because again, this is my gentle comfort knit. It's like stockinette.
So
nice. And so this will be happening.
It's perfect.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
It's perfect. I did the size that worked out for a 20-inch circumference. I think I'm like 22. My head is 22 inches, and then this is the 20-inch circumference. But I did not swatch, so, or not swatch. I didn't even look at. Well, no, I did because I did my gauge, but I don't know if I kept the same. I probably did.
And
so it'd be like 20 inches. 20 stitches per 4 inches.
4 inches, you did it on you did 5 stitches per inch size, and it was 233 yards. Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
It's beautiful.
And this is your first entry into the low mileage wool.
Low mileage wool make-along started January 1st. When did I get this one in? Because whips were allowed. January 1st, afternoon. I was that morning going, I'm getting it in today, it's happening, and I did. So I was the #1 person in the FO thing. That was very exciting.
Do you want to put on the hat that I knit for?
Yes. What is this?
The
I need
low.
to know.
I don't know why I can't get this out of my mouth. Low mileage wool make along.
Is this where did you make it a?
I did. I don't know.
Hat? What's the
I don't know.
anything?
If there's a front or a back.
Love this.
So this is knit. This is my first entry. I actually don't know if it counts. Brittany, you let me know.
Is this?
I can't look while like 8 gajillion
on and really seeing it.
Yes. So,
how's it going? Is it all right?
This looks so good on you. See, I think this looks better on you than it is on me.
What, this one?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen it on you yet.
Yeah.
But that would be a first, Jackie. Oh, I love it.
So this is I don't know how to say this word. Sveaborg?
I don't even know this pattern. I can't even help you. Like, what is it? I'm waiting with bated breath. What is
this
it?
This is a Sari Nordlund pattern called Sveaborg. Sveaborg?
That's what we would
Sorry.
think, but in Sweden they always have different things where you're like, oh no, it's
Finnish?
Blaborg, and you're like, why? I don't know.
Anyhow,
Different.
it's a gorgeous cabled hat. This was, which was knit in. Okay.
Yes.
Have to get this right. Have to get it right. This yarn comes from Beatrice.
Yes.
Fibre and Forge. Beatrice is the shepherdess producer behind Fibre and Forge, which is another Canadian wool company. The yarn actually comes from Olive. Olive is a sweet and friendly ewe who loves to be cuddled and produces award-winning fleece. And the breed it's a combination between Clun forest and Gotland. So
it's perfection for the cables.
It is.
I don't want to take it off to show, but I guess I should.
It's the first time that I've knit with a spun yarn that has this kind of quality of like bouncy, downy squishiness. And there's also a sheen and a luster. But I combined it, I held it with one strand of Suri alpaca from Chrissy of Hypothesis Yarns. This is like, I had a single skein that I had been holding on to for forever and ever because she is not currently dying anymore. And I just loved it. And I love the idea of having cables that were tweedy.
Yes, yes.
So it's like a speckled Suri, and so I held it together. I love this knit so much. How does it feel? So I want to hear how it feels for you.
Like so squishy and warm and like how do I call it's like got a rust I don't, like, you know, we overuse rustic, I think, and even like, you know, toothy and stuff, but it's grip. It's got grip. It's not scratchy at all. Like my forehead, it's perfectly happy, and it's thick, and I don't know. I don't have words.
Neither do I.
I just love it. I love it. I don't want to take it off. This might be staying
looks
here.
so good on
even
you.
though it's your only skein of
Of olive.
Of olive. Well, of olive and also of the Suri. So it can't be repeated.
No.
So you do love me though.
I do love it. It was such a joy to knit. It was the continuation of my obsession with cables. 1x1 rib. There's something about a 1x1 rib double brim that is amazing. And you know, we've had a lot of conversations here about how I have a real resistance to spun yarn.
Yes.
And I feel like this combination has cracked my resistance.
Yay.
Because I mean, I've been knitting the single flock Find Your Fade from Brittany of Crux Fibres as well, and that's a spun yarn that I love, but I feel like it's a spun yarn that is drapey and silky and has all of the characteristics of unspun that I love. So I feel like it's like a spun yarn that leans towards unspun characteristics, where this is the first yarn that I feel like is like a really round, bouncy, squishy spun thing.
Is
and
it
I'm like,
woolen spun,
I understand.
I think it feels like it would
I think
be
it's
woolen.
semi-worsted.
Semi-worsted, really? Oh, okay.
I don't actually know. I might have lied to you. It
look
doesn't
at this
say.
people. Look at these beautiful. It's so beautiful.
But I held it with the Suri alpaca because I felt when I have had this pattern in my queue for a while. It's such beautiful cables, and I was like, I want to do the like traditional cable thing. Cream cables, tweedy, and like a bouncy kind of yarn. But this is a DK weight. There's still some available if you would like to get some. It's a DK weight, and the pattern was worsted. And so that's why I added this.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It feels, to be honest, like I would have gone like with an Aran. Like it's really, it feels thick, but again, not like, it's not constrictive. It feels like my hug. You know what? It feels like my head is being hugged. Like that is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like you're just basically taking your hands and hugging my head.
Yeah. It looks so good in you, and also like, again, we have like the Nomi, right? It's like tall.
I love the big palm too.
Yeah.
And I'm like 5'9", so like this would just make me like I'd be over 6 feet with this with the palm. I love this, but I think I need the palm on. I love it.
So this is the second Sari Nordlund hat that I've knit, and I find, you know, with all of the conversation that we've had about us having large circumference tall heads, I find that for me, like I knit actually, I never know what you call this. I had more stitches per 4 inches than the pattern gauge. Is that smaller or larger? I don't know.
More stitches is gonna make a smaller fabric.
Yeah. So essentially, I expected already that because my gauge was off in the direction that should make a smaller hat.
Yes.
I still found it huge.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, it's
huge, but I find it perfect.
Well,
because it's huge for her because she actually made it for me. She just didn't know it.
I didn't know it, but I did. But I did. So can I?
Yes, you can take it off.
I just wanted to.
No,
so I was like,
I can deal. Oh my gosh! Can I just say that I can now hear differently? Like that was so insulating that my hearing was like it was a little muffled. I didn't even realize that thick.
So I was like, there was hat styling too,
Look
right?
At you.
So you can wear it really low. I sort of thought because it was larger, I'm like, I can do like a super brim situation, which again, the watch cap look kind of into.
Cute.
Probably would take the palm off. I don't know. Palm, no palm. So there's like watch cap look. And then, you know how I actually have been wearing it because we've had really on again, off again weather. So I knit this with the intention of it being like my dog walking hat for, you know, when you're taking the dog around the block, and so I'm only doing like a 15-minute walk and there's like not time to warm up. Right. So I was like, okay, warm, squishy, wonderful. So I knit it, and then of course, because I knit it and then I bound it off, I'm like, I have to wear it. And then it was like one of those, like, it was like 10 degrees and I was like, I'm dying. However, I have to wear my knitwear. And so I wore it kind of like this. Which reminds me of like being a 90s
The 90s,
kid.
yes, exactly.
And I kind of love it also like this.
I love it like that too.
I think this is like how
That's super cute.
Want to wear the hat.
Yeah, you do need to wear it like that. Damn it, I gotta give it back to
And the thing is, remember we lamented about short hats that don't cover your ears. If you wear your hat like this, you just need to wear it like do a big slouchy hat, you can cover your ears,
Yes.
but not have your forehead
Yes,
constricted or too hot, or
Yes.
like if you've knit a hat out of a yarn that you're like, I don't know, like if I am happy with, like, sometimes if I get too hot, it's like rustic.
Yeah.
Just like do this.
Just put it over your hair.
Just put it over your hair. There you go.
And do your hair like this too. Then you're set. It's beautiful.
So yeah.
Wow, Jackie.
We're still into hats.
We're
still into
What's
hats.
happening to us?
What's
Sweet?
happening?
It's still happening. Because you've got another couple.
I have another couple. Okay, so yes, this was a super lovely pattern. This is also a pattern that, you see the cables? Where you have moss stitch and you have cables.
I love moss stitch in between cables.
In between cables, and I would say this is, the cables there are multiple cables that you're doing inside this large cable, and in terms of getting your mind around cables, I think this is a good project. Again, in terms of you get breaks because of the moss stitch, and then you get to understand and sort of see, oh, this is how left leaning and right leaning is, and here's how you can start to learn to read cables that have both knitting and purling. Because until this hat, I'd only done cables that were really, you're always knitting, like you cross and you're always knitting. So I highly recommend the pattern for this, plus it makes a gorgeous hat. Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to do your other hats?
Yeah. Actually, do you want to do this one?
Sure. Okay, sure.
Because it's interrelated.
It's not finished though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whip
time.
Continued whip.
So I talked about this last time too. The pressed flowers. So there's the pressed flower shawl that a lot of people have been knitting by Amy Christoffers. Savory knitting. Ha! Got it. And then she came out, I was like, oh, I've got to knit that. But, you know, shawl, I didn't need another shawl. Well, now I do need another shawl, but at the time I didn't need another shawl. But what I really need are cardigans. Need cardigans. This is my, like, hopefully you're going to see lots of cardigans in the next little bit. She came out with a pressed flowers cardigan. Oh my God. So I'm not finished yet, but you can see this is the back of it. Oh my God. It is like... This was also a wonderful knit. Like, I loved it. I loved it. I mean, you can't really see it now very well, but
look at those colors.
I know. So I actually, this was one where I did use spin cycle. So spin cycle dyed in the wool is trying to mimic hand spun. It's machine made, but it has a hand spun kind of feel. I guess it's called fractal spinning, I think. Yeah. Where there's a really long color changes in each. You've got 2 fibers. Let me see if I can, because I was running out of it. And of course it'll be in brown, so it's not gonna be as easy to see. There's 2 fibers. I think it's just double ply, 2 ply?
2 ply.
And then, so they're just spun together, and then they have very slow color changes in each of the 2 plies, and they have different colors as they go. So you have a situation where the colors change very slowly, and they change almost like if you were holding something double and you wanted to fade something, you could have, like, you'd hold one color constant and then you'd fade in and you'd hold them 2 at a time. You'd take one color, maybe both the same color, then you fade in at one of the strands another color, and then you fade in this one with another color, and you kind of change them that way. It's kind of like that.
So beautiful.
And you just end up with whatever it gives you. And with this pattern, I loved that. Like, there's something about this pressed flowers motif that looks so good with spin cycle, I think. Because you just don't know. And I mean, this is also one where you just have to like let the universe do its thing. Because it's not going to be the same.
From side to side.
From side to side.
Okay.
When you get up, once you get to the sleeves, you actually do the back and you do this 2 fronts separately. So you're gonna end up with different things unless you manage it. Like, if you were really careful, you can manage the colors.
Change.
They won't be the same.
I mean,
Here, and the sleeves won't be the same. But it's so pretty. I'm gonna take this off. Plus, I'm dying of heat. Oh, I'm like, did everything stay buttoned up? Hopefully. You never know with me. gonna be, oh, thank you.
Oh,
It's gonna be so pretty. So what's gonna end up happening is you've got quite a large ribbing section. I also want to say that the main color I used was a Brooklyn Tweed ranch color, or ranch set, which is like where they go to specific ranches in the US and it's single flock from like a maker down in the US somewhere. This one's from Colorado. And it's the bounciest, it's merino. I don't know if you can see the stitch definition, like that's not even twisted rib, like that's just regular.
wow.
It's so beautiful. Anyway, so that's gonna come up and there will be, you know, a collar that comes around and then these sleeves. There's just a bit of decreasing. I was like, did I lose this? Just a bit of decreasing in the top part and then it's basically a straight down and then a cuff. I love it. I love it. And everybody who's talked about this pattern has said, you know, it's just such a nice, like this motif is so nice to knit because you read it really easily. Like it's mosaic knitting, so you're not carrying both colors at the same time. Each round, or here you're knitting it flat, but each time you change the color, you change the wool that you're using. So one at a time.
You're working with one color per row and you're knitting and slipping.
Yes. So you're just kind of keeping on going up there. And then I will say that it's also like a garter. You can see the kind of waffliness of it, and that's because it's garter coming back. So it's actually the most annoying part of this is the sleeves, funny enough, in the round. Because when you're knitting it flat, you're getting mostly knit. Like for me, I like knitting more than purling. So it's mostly knitting all the way along, and then you just have this where you have to purl every other row.
So I love it. I love it so much.
That. Yay! Oh, this is pretty.
So,
only, right, you're about to tell me.
Yeah, so this is the Pressed Flowers hat. Same designer, part of the collection. This was me trying to be Carmen, but knowing that I didn't have the commitment to do sport weight cardigan.
Right.
And also, I tried to find this particular colorway of spin cycle that was like blue and icy, and it doesn't exist anymore.
No, they
discontinued it. So I was like, okay, well, what I do have is this beautiful that I showed in the last podcast,
and
Nutiden, and today, OMGE. I don't know how to say it. I'm so sorry. Every time we podcast, I'm like, maybe I'll go back and listen to Carolyn say it and then repeat it on my way over, and it never happens. But I was like, this is a beautiful, cool blue, and if you had tuned in last time, I just needed it. I needed this on my needles. I was thinking about doing a big cable project in it, and I asked you guys to help me decide between this one and a cream cabled, and a cream for a cabled cardigan. But and someone had the bright idea of saying, well, if you don't know if the cables are going to show, then you should swatch. And I swatched with a hat. So I actually started. This was meant to become a cabled hat. It wasn't going to be in the same motif, but I was like, I'm just going to find a cabled hat, and I found a free pattern, and I started, and I could tell just from the rib that I didn't think that there was the stitch definition that was going to be required for me to do the whole cabled piece. So then I was like, however, I do have the skein of oh no, I always confuse these two. Hang on, let me make sure that I don't say the wrong thing. Malabrigos Dos Tierras, which is non-superwash merino, 50% non-superwash merino, and 50% alpaca.
Oh, it's so pretty.
In this sort of color changing, orangish, greenish, I don't know, what would you call that? I mean, I love it.
It's beautiful.
And I thought my plan actually had been to knit the Cinnabar shawl by Andrew Mowry in this particular combination.
Yes.
But I knit the hat instead to begin.
was just thinking, you know, we also could have done, oh, now I'm blanking
Veer Von.
on, thank you,
Yeah.
Veer Von.
From Veer Von, which is a color changing Nutiden yarn, but I
Oh,
wanted to try it out, and it was a
Yeah.
good little audition for the Cinnabar shawl, and I love it. And for those of you who have tall heads, this pattern is a really great one. I knitted exactly to pattern. I feel like it fits super well. And so if you're wondering about this, knit a hat. See if you like it. I will say, because it's knitting around. Every other round is purling, which I similarly don't love as much as I love knitting. But because you have these little motifs, and I totally understand the color changing yarn thing now, because you're like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's so great. And if you knit the hat and you're like, you know what, that was really enjoyable, then you'll be like, when you knit, if you're like us and don't like purling, then it's only gonna get better.
Oh,
like, so if you like it enough in the hat, then you can be like, oh my God, it's just gonna be. I love a back and forth. Like, maybe that's part of why I want to do cardigans right now. Like, I like knitting flat and seamed too. I like seaming.
Yeah. So love this.
And
I can't have the cardigan, but I have the a nod to the cardigan and the hat.
And you can.
Do you want to go full pressed flowers?
Oh
my gosh! It's so good. It looks so good on you.
I love it.
I think this time my hats look better on you than they look on me.
I don't know if that's true, but I do like it. And honestly, whoops! Yikes! As I stab her with some needles, because that's how we roll. Look at that! I've got needles just sitting there. I just throw caution to the wind. I love this. And I was like, oh, Jackie says it's gonna fit, and then I'm gonna put it on and it's not gonna fit, and we're gonna be like, oh, your head's too big, but it actually does fit.
No, there's something about mosaic knitting, or like this particular stitch pattern, that's like incredibly squishy and stretchy. I didn't block it because I liked it. I didn't want it to get any larger, and I knit those on US ones.
US ones? I'm on 5s, I think, for this. 4s.
Yes, US ones. In order to get gauge.
Yeah. Jeez.
I think it's possible, actually, now that I'm looking at it, it's possible that I did knit one more motif. Like, there might have been. So if you look at the project page, or if you look at the hashtag on Instagram, it's a pattern that people seem to be knitting different lengths.
Gotcha.
So it's a good one to kind of like fit.
Yeah.
I was thinking that it would be a good swatch, but it isn't really, because it's knit in the round as opposed to.
It would give you your thing. You know what? I am finding I'm using the same size. I probably should have gone up.
But you like a tight sleeve, so
I do. Yeah. I'm wondering if it looks a little bit, but once it blocks, I think it'll be fine. But it does look similar.
Yeah.
Can I say about this one too? And I'll probably talk about this more. I feel like this is a longer conversation, but been trying to think of. So I've spent the last year really embracing my, like, yay, as I say, fly by the wind, see where things take me, my like Vata and energy of just airiness. Okay, I'm a menace. I'm gonna take this off. And then I'm working with Amy, wonderful Amy Palco from the Meaningful Stitch, and what she does in addition to gorgeous knitting and beautiful knitting podcasts, that if you haven't checked her out, you should, because it's like, when she's saying it's a meaningful stitch, it really is. Like, her thoughts on things, like, she's an incredible human. Yeah. Well, what she also does is goddess work and oracle work, and I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to say this in words well enough to actually explain it, but what she does is give readings for people that help you. I participate once a month with her, but she also does a full year one. So basically, in the ways that she does it, to say it in a really fast way, my direction in my year ahead is to actually add some more order. And my two words are order and orientation. And I laugh at this in a way, like when I got my reading, and then I talked to Amy about it, I was like, this is so interesting, because I have loved the part of me that is airy and flowy,
spontaneous,
come along. But meeting Jackie, like really has given me there's like this other piece that I can see, not that there's anything wrong with how I am, but that I can actually be even fuller if I incorporate a little more of the kind of energy that you have, like this, like more organized, more like, but like in the word's overused, but intentional, like thinking about what you want to do. It's great to just go with the wind, but it's also kind of nice sometimes to think about things.
So to pause, to consider, to reflect.
Yes, and in this reading that I have, it's order, but it's order, and the other word that was so important to me was orientation, because to me, it's not just about being ordered, it's about having a direction and choosing that direction, and I can absolutely change it according when it feels right. That's fine. It's nothing that like nothing can be carved in stone for me. Yeah. Can't be trapped, but I can have more orientation. So those are my 2 words for the year, to be thinking about things and moving in a direction with a bit more mindfulness of where I want to go, and then seeing how things go with that. So when I was knitting this, I have found that this has there were a lot of places where I had opportunities to be a little different in that. So I made many mistakes, like many errors. So I knit the ribbing, and then I went up, and because it was knit flat, but it's a chart, I forgot that when I'm seeing little, like the dots on it, I thought it was just going to be stockinette, like, cause I was coming back, but it was actually to knit it. So it should have been garter, but I was purling back, which looked fine. Like because it ended up with just like a stockinette kind of look, but it wasn't what it was meant to be. And I had knit up to, I don't know if I said this last time, but maybe I knit up to about here. Carmen before would be like, it's fine. It's fine. I don't need to be perfectionistic. I can just like, it's beautiful. I trust that I'm just going to keep going. And if I had gone that way, it would be fine. That would have been fine. But I was like, no, I don't think right now. Like, I think I would like to pull it. So I rip it out. That happened so many times. Like, I almost wish I'd kept track. I misread the pattern when I came up here. I split for sleeves, and then I came up and I did this part. I misread the pattern in where she said to stop, and so I ended up stopping the motif here, I think, or maybe it was right here, and just doing this part. So I didn't have any flowers at the top. And then when I got to the back section, I reread it and I'm like, oh no, I think I'm supposed to. And then I looked back at the like pictures and I'm like, oh no, there are flowers. I'm like, okay, it would have been fine. I could have had a sweater where I just didn't have that. And maybe that would have looked nice. And it did, it would have looked nice. But I'm like, but no, I think I want to do it I want to do it, not the right way. I want to do it the way I intended. Like I wanted this sweater. So I'm going to actually rip it out. Like I ripped that. And then when I was going up here, I missed an increase. So I did this one fine or whatever, and I missed an increase going up this way, and it would have been fine, Jackie. Again, I would have left this, but I'm like, no. I went back, pulled it back again. And I just,
how'd that feel?
Exactly. The whole way, I'm like, you know what? I love knitting. I love the way this wool feels. It's squishy and spongy and delightful. I love the sweater that's coming out, and I want this sweater to be what I want it to be. Yeah. And it's been just really joyful to make so many mistakes. Like, it's like the mistakes are they're opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. I say this often with clients because it's just such a good acronym. I don't know if anybody knows Glennon Doyle. Mm-hmm. She now has a podcast, quite good. We Can Do Hard Things, has written books. In one of her old, I think it was Love Warrior, it could have been one of them. She has an acronym she calls an AFGO, or she might say AFGO, but I call it an AFGO, and she calls it, excuse my language, sorry, little ears, another fucking growth opportunity. And there is something so beautiful about that, because it's true. Like when we face things, they suck. Like they're not fun, but they are the chances to grow. So it's like, as I was doing, I'm like, oh, look at these AFGOs. And I would smile because I'm like, oh, there's another opportunity. Isn't that so nice that I get to practice like ripping out and doing it again? But it felt really nice. Yeah, really nice.
You know, I think we talk about this a lot. but I think it bears repeating, which is, at least for me, I think for both of us, you know, we all knit for different reasons. And one of the reasons that I knit is because it's an opportunity for me to be intentional and also get to practice in an arena where it's easier to practice.
Yes.
So, you know, in a lot of my work, I say change is not always easy, even when it's change that we desire, because change is new. And it can be really challenging to make change in the midst of a situation which is already really challenging, which is usually the
only way,
impetus for people to make change.
Yes, it's kind of the only option.
For me, I feel like knitting, in a large part because of the knitting community and people like Amy Palco and Caroline at Honor Rock Air and Caitlin and Jackie from the Caddy Jacks Knit podcast, they influenced me to look at my knitting as a low stakes place to experiment and practice things that are actually things that I want to bring into a higher degree of difficulty places in my life.
Beautiful.
Right. So similar to Carmen, I have purchased, received, worked with one of Amy Palco's offerings called My Word Goddess, which is a riff on the idea of like New Year's intentions. So some people do intentions and resolutions and so on and so forth. I've always been more towards the approach that isn't about making goals or outcomes or resolutions, but having a word or an intention that is something that you seek to cultivate over the course of the year. And so what Amy does is she intuitively chooses a goddess, and the goddess work is really about archetypes, that certain goddesses sort of carry certain energies and certain ways of being, and the opportunity is to use that reading as a reflection or a jumping off point for you to find your like word.
Yes.
Very
nicely said.
I've been doing it for a couple of years, and Amy is the one who sort of really brought my meditation, mindfulness, contemplative practice in relationship with my knitting through the My Word Goddess readings, because every year I get one. I get the goddess of the year, the words, and then I knit something.
Yes.
That is my opportunity to contemplate and integrate and practice whatever these qualities are that have value to me but maybe are a little bit new. And so, you know, one of the things that I think is really that I really appreciate about our friendship is the way that we're the same but different.
Yes.
And so unsurprisingly, or surprisingly unsurprisingly, when I got my reading this year, my goddess was about, like, my words were trust and surrender. Yeah. And I was like, crazy?
I couldn't believe it.
So I haven't actually planned my sort of goddess knit for the year. Yes. Because I actually think I'm going in different, I think I'm going a different direction with it. Nice. One, which is that I'm going to lean into not this sort of orderly, cognitive, reflective orientation. Yes. I think it will come when it comes. And we were having conversations about our various goddesses and the words, and Carmen, you were sharing with me how alive your order and orientation in your particular goddess has been since you started working with her. And I was like, I don't know if I've made that sort of connection yet. And then, as happens when we have conversations and when we reflect, I realize that's not true. Because the reason we've said that this is a Knitting and Fibre podcast is because this has begun. Yes. So I actually love how this whole thing happened in terms of our friendship. So we're now spinners.
We are. I could get my Bobbles.
We're now spinning. Yes. And so I love how this happened because, you know, in classic our dynamic, I'm like, do you want to start spinning? spinning? Is this a thing that you want to do? Actually, I bought spinning fiber from Air
Yes.
months ago.
Yes.
Because it just felt like the right thing. And I was like, I will get to this at some point.
Yep.
And so we're talking, and I've done some research on spinning wheels.
Research?
A lot of research on spinning wheels, and I've asked the people in our community. Thank you, Brittany, for answering all my questions about
you
spinning
had your
wheels.
plan, of what you were gonna get,
all the things, and then what happened?
Well, from my perspective, no, I wanted to spin too, but I wasn't sure, but I wasn't gonna do any research. That's not what I do, because Nukua was not in my life at that time, or maybe she was, but I wasn't aware. So I was like, la la la, it'll be fine. So I'm watching Andrea Mowry's wonderful I'll Knit If I Want To, and she just happened, the way that universe works, that she just happened to be talking on there, and she's talked so much about spinning because over the past couple years she's really taken that on. But in this one, and she's probably answered this question before, but for some reason she answered it again, which was, what's the best spinning wheel to get for a beginner? And she said, I used to recommend this other one, but this, to be honest, if I was asked again right now, I would recommend this Lendrum double treadle castle one, I think, wheel. And it turns out Lendrum is a maker. It's a Canadian who makes these by hand here, and it's sold just down in Niagara, about a half an hour drive away. And I looked it up, and I was like, there's 2 left. And I'm like, Jackie, should we get wheels? Should we get these? I think we should. And you said, yes.
And I got my Why Word Goddess reading, which was trust, surrender, receive. And I was like, okay.
And I was 5 minutes away from going into a meeting, and I'm like, well, I gotta do it. Okay. And I'm like, done. I basically let's just do it.
Yeah, she sent me the link, and we did it.
I did it. And then I didn't want to wait for it because I wanted it at Christmas. I didn't end up being able to even open it until days after, but I didn't want to wait. So I drove and got us our wheels, and I'm back.
So I decided, it's only in reflection that I realized this, is that I decided because a dear friend of ours, when I had sort of asked them about spinning and what would they recommend, said something that just kind of stuck with me. And she said, here are all these resources that you can look at. Here's a list of people. Here's a list of books. And she said 2 things. She said, 1, recognize that there's going to be a learning curve. Mm-hmm. And 2, I just kind of let my hands do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And so I went in with the intention of sort of saying, I'm not gonna approach spinning the way that I approach everything else, which is to meticulously research and to, make a plan, and then to go forward and execute the plan, then change the plan, and then make a new plan, and then execute that new plan. I'm just gonna trust that, I've been knitting long enough that I feel like I understand, my hand, yes. Even if my brain doesn't understand it, my hands are gonna understand it. And it's like an embodiment exercise. It's saying, just let your hands do what it's gonna do. And so that's what I spent my time, your feet, right?
He starts to just get it.
And so I watched a few videos. Basically, I was like, how do I put this wheel together? How do I attach the things? And where do things come out of? And then I just picked up the fiber that I'd gotten from Air, and I have such deep trust in everything that they make, because my hands are I know my hands know this. Mm-hmm. And so I just started spinning. It's so fun.
Beautiful, by the way. Look how gorgeous.
For
done.
those of you who are spinners,
this looks
you're going to be
me.
like, okay, so this is by no means a perfect spin. It's overspun places, underspun places, but I can't possibly be more proud.
You should be.
And I feel like instead of there being a knitting project, that is my sort of opportunity to practice trusting and surrendering and allowing and receiving help from people. This is it.
Oh,
this is gonna be the expression.
So good.
And I am so delighted to be on this journey, this new fiber journey. And the other thing that I'll say is that I think my knitting has occupied a particular purpose and a place in my life, which is a place of slowing down and quiet and reflection and intentionality. And, you know, this past year and meeting Carmen has led me to take on a lot of new knitting projects that are outside of my comfort zone, and that has been a really amazing and fun exploration. And it's also meant that my knitting has shifted in its in the space or the energy that it offers me in my life. Yeah. It's about sort of experimentation and excitement and new and challenge and learning, and those are all amazing things. And I felt like, but I need a half and half triangles wrap in Newton. I need that sort of moment of reflection and just letting my hands do, and having the opportunity to explore my other forms of creativity, like my writing and my teaching and my facilitating, which is hard to do when you're square by square reading your cables and that kind of stuff. And so I think that in the hours that I spent spinning, I realized this is the action of simple stockinette or garter.
Yes.
But in a different way. And
maybe could I add like almost like a more energetic way though, because the wheel is turning and you're putting all this energy into it, and there is a bit, maybe because it's new to me and maybe eventually it'll just be so relaxing, but there's also an excitement of doing it to me that it's like there's all this and things are moving and I'm trying to like, you know, and I'm watching my hands move and I'm watching them learn before I even know. Like I'm watching myself do things that I'm like, oh, that was good. Like, yeah, well done. Fingers, good idea to unroll that there. Like I'm not thinking, but there's a lot of not a lot of intensity, but there's more intensity I think than a calm stockinette.
Yeah, there's a more like you're in relationship with.
Yes. And something can run away from you. Like it's not totally in our control. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. There's another thing happening here, and you've started a wheel spinning that you can't just totally stop and be, you know, like you can, but there's energy, and once you put it into the wool, the spin is there. So you'd have to figure out like how to. It's not all in control the way that stockinette is completely like in our control.
Yeah, what I realize is there's this real like surrendering to what the fabric wants to do, and the fiber
and like where it gets thin and thick, like it has its own ideas.
Yeah. I also there is always going to be the part of me that is intentional and thinking about it, and one of the things that I'm orienting towards in terms of my spinning is working with different fibers. And getting to know the fiber, because you really do get to know the fiber in the process of trying to make it from fluff or roving or whatever it is, like just a puff into yarn. And one of our dear friends had this moment in which I asked her a question about, I don't remember the context, but I basically asked her a question about like the qualities, or asked her a question about like either wool or fiber, I can't remember, and I just distinctly remember she was like, hang on, let me go and check, and she like picked up the thing and like looked at it and like did a little bit of that, and she's like, so I think that there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and she was talking about like staple and drape, and then she had an answer for me, and I was just like, okay, goals. That is like amazing. And I remember having this moment of thinking about, you know how like wine sommeliers, they have a sip of wine and that and it's like a whole universe opens up to them. And so there's this idea of wanting to be able to be at a place with fiber where my hands can open a whole universe, a whole conversation about what it is. And I also think on a very pragmatic level, it's going to allow me to make more intentional choices, or to know more in terms of purchasing spun wool or unspun wool, sort of understanding what it is that I actually love. Because I'm at a place in my knitting where I've knit so many things, and there are so many possible beautiful things to be knitting. And I think going back to this conversation about process versus product, I think loving the product and loving the process is possible, but you do have to have some foundational knowledge is helpful in that way. And spinning for me is kind of, I have to surrender on the product and just be in the process, at least now as a beginner, because I have no idea what's going to happen. But so,
although the picture I have in my mind of these amazing things I'm making as I'm
Yeah.
doing it, it's beautiful. And then I look at them like the actual thing, I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't look exactly like what I was expecting, but it's still going to be amazing and glorious.
so there is this excitement of kind of having something and not knowing where it's going to go. So this might become a spinning podcast. It might not. I feel like I am so far from
oh God, we can't
being
get any
able
help.
to do anything. We're not a podcast where you're getting lots of great teaching information anyhow.
Do we have any? This is a funny story. I was talking to somebody at the school, a parent that I don't, know but don't know super well. So they've like found out that I have this knitting podcast, and she's like, oh, well, I know how to crochet. She's like, I was thinking I'd like to learn how to knit. And I'm like, oh no, like,
Don't watch our podcast.
I'm like, no, you're not gonna learn anything. She's like, no, like you'll show, right? Like you've got one of these things where you show how to knit. I'm like, no, we don't show how to knit at all. Like you won't learn anything. If you want to geek out on fiber and knitting and just the excitement of color and everything, that's us for hours. But there's no actual information to be taken from this to teach you how. And I feel like our spinning adventures will be similar, most likely.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I at times have, watched podcasts and people move into spinning, and I'm like, at the time I was like, oh, I don't really understand spinning. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I really want people to go into the spinning thing. And then so I laugh that we're like there. We won't make it all about spinning because I don't, or whatever. Who knows what we're going to do?
Who knows what we're going to do?
What we're going to do? People who want to stay will stay if it's still interesting and everything.
We'll try and put the spinning in a segment so that you have a choice around it. If we do that,
probably it'll be like here.
It's going to be a while.
But can I just say that there is something, I don't have words again for it, but there is such magic in spinning in how this happens. Like how I don't have any of it here. You take a floof, like, we think that Nutiden is breakable. Like you're going to get a floof of fiber, a cloud of fiber that it just, and you somehow turn it into knitting. And knitting into yarn. And I started, which Brittany suggested, with a drop spindle. I love the drop spindle. So I love this wheel too, but that drop spindle I loved. But the thing is, you spin it and you have it spinning and your fiber is hanging, and you realize how strong this floof gets just by the tiniest bit. Like you don't even need that much twist in it to have it actually become very strong. And there is so much magic and physics in this, and then the energy that gets there's energy that gets collected into this wool that then sits there waiting, and then it gets reactivated by water. Like there's so much cool things. Like it's blowing my mind a bit.
Yeah.
So we'll go on a little bit as it goes.
Yeah. But if you're a spinner, if you have spinning resources or spinning inspiration, we would love to hear about it.
Any recommendations?
Any recommendations, because we are in the brand new, and it's very, very exciting, and hopefully we'll have some, eventually have some finished objects.
Yeah,
but
sure.
My plan for this, you can't
don't
teach
have
it,
a plan.
is I want to make a Musselburgh hat.
Oh, that's fun. Yes. Definitely.
Because I feel like it would be really forgiving that I do half of it in hand spun and half of it in Nutiden or something that is comfortable. And so if the hand spun, which your first hand spun is never perfect, if I over under spun it in such a way that it actually can't be knit into something, I'll just put it inside.
There you go.
That's my plan.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. And I did, just because we're talking about it, I'll just shout out, because we both ended up, I think, on this person's podcast independently. So this person named Evie, she's the Jillian Eve podcast. I think it's just Jillian Eve on Facebook. It will be in the show notes. She's amazing. She's amazing. She has taught me so much. I just sit and listen. I've been listening even just as I knit, just to kind of and she's just got great ideas and lots of history and stuff too. So that's just a shout out for anybody who's interested and wants to get going.
Yeah. Okay.
We still have more.
But
what do we think? 2 hours? Should we keep going? Can I show this?
Yes.
You were going to show yours, right?
Okay.
I mentioned last time about the Balin. I call it the Balin cardigan. Some people call it Balin. Balan by Emily Green. It was actually a Brooklyn tweed knit, meant to be knit in Brooklyn tweed shelter, which is a worsted weight wool, but woolen, so it's worsted weight, but woolen spun. And now that we're talking about spinning, it's a different way of spinning the fiber so that there's a lot more air that's kept in the fiber, and it's loftier than a worsted spun, which would be a much tighter spin. And because of that, it's lighter and warmer. I saw this so I think I saw the pattern, and then a call went out from oh my gosh, I keep blanking on her name. Now it's like I got the last name, Allison Dykhuizen. I'm butchering that last name. She used to work at Knit One Chicago, and then I think that ended. I don't know if Knit One still exists, but now she's got a podcast with her friend, or not podcast, like group where you can knit whatever. She does a bunch of knitting workshops. She was doing a sweater workshop for this sweater, and I was like, you know what, I'll try it because like it's just fun, and I love being part of things. So it's cables and bobbles, which is of course everything that I want. And you can see on Jackie too, right here. Okay, I want to do this. I'm gonna put it on. There are two sizes. There's a cropped version, which is hilarious because the cropped version comes to your waist. And then there's this long version that goes all the way down. Oh, can you see there? I've got better pictures on my Instagram, but you'll see it's just a million bobbles, cables, and moss stitch in between. And you knit this whole thing in pieces, flat, which is exactly what I wanted to do at that time. I knit mine in Durarum Natura Gilead, which is a really good option. It's quite comparable to Brooklyn Tweed's Shelter and about half the price. And they have a great, like it comes from, I think, France, but like sheep that are well treated as well. So it's like, it's not like it's a cheaper option and there's like shortcuts that are being made in production. It's actually beautiful and it feels beautifully spongy. I made mine, this was size 1, but I made it like, it's quite oversized. I went longer on the sleeves and I did a longer shawl collar than was asked for. But I find myself wearing this all the time. Like I'll throw this on as my jacket and just love it. And then Jackie.
So this sweater is one of the reasons why I was like, I need to be friends with this girl. Because Carmen just, so the Caddy Jacks Bingo Ball last year was basically a Zoom call. And so people were invited to kind of come on and show their knits. Carmen's like just, casually knitting a snowy forest sweater. I'm like, love that sweater. And every time she comes on, she just puts on this like she can't, she's like, so okay, I just like knit this cardigan, and she like comes out and there's like cables and bobbles and she just can't, and I loved it and it was so fun, and I was just like, so fun. Oh my gosh, I need to be friends with this person, and also this is the most amazing sweater. And so she talked me into
well, in my way, right, where I'm like, it's so easy and fun, and it is into knitting it.
And
I've never seen her version. This is my first time.
Yeah, I say this every time, but like, this,
I might like it even more in Nutiden.
This, I'm just so proud of.
Yes.
And I knit this all last year, and then because I don't love seaming, it's just been sitting in pieces for forever and ever. And because I knew the bingo ball was coming up and we were coming to our friend anniversary, I was like, it's time, Jackie. You have to come full circle and you have to finish your balin and show it on the podcast. And so here it is.
Oh, it is beautiful.
So I knit this, mine is in Nutiden Yarn in the colorway Vassin.
So
again,
pretty.
You can do anything with Nutiden. Look at these bobbles.
I know.
Like, look at them.
Look at how defined
and bouncy they are. So I held Nutiden double on US 6 needles, and I got gauge, so it's
wow.
again.
So that wasn't very loose at all.
No,
because I'm pretty sure I did 6s too.
And then I did the same sort of modifications that Carmen did. In the original pattern, the shawl collar is not as big, but I loved her version. So I also similarly knit this longer. What else is there to say? This is 780 grams of Nutiden yarn. Because Bobbles, which is quite significant. Because I mean,
Bobbles,
it's big.
there's a million Bobbles.
There's a million Bobbles.
But can I say they're a good bobble?
Yes.
Like, there are some good bobbles and not good bobbles. Like ones that really drive you crazy, and then good ones.
Enjoyable bobbles.
Yeah. It was only for me. It was like in the last. What did I do? How did I do it? It was in the last round of maybe my last sleeve, right at the end of it, that I was like, I could like not do bobbles now, like for a while. Like this is a lot of bobbles. But before that, and believe it or not, this might, again, is one of these patterns that you'd think would be like really complicated. Like you'd have to like really pay attention to the chart. Not at all. I barely looked at the chart.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. You just read it. You just read your knitting and you know exactly what you're doing. And again, if you come up with a little like mnemonic or strategy for like right and left crossing, like
cables.
Of cables. For me, I don't know if I could explain it well, but for me, if I want it to go left and back have the same number of letters, so I grab from the back. So if it's going to go left, I go from the back. If it's going to go right and front have the same number of letters.
Oh.
So front, and that is just done. That's it.
See, I remember it as right reverse. Because if you
reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow. So what did I want to say about this knit? I think it's a knit. Okay, so obviously it's a long-term project.
Yeah.
But it's one
Actually,
of
I'm
those.
even pretty fast.
Well, yeah, you're fast.
It's not. I'm not
You're
fast. You're a
on
fast knitter.
cables.
But on cables, it's not actually. It's way faster than it could be.
Yes, like I
Especially if
think
you seam it right
when
after
I
you're done.
looked at it, yeah, when I looked at it, I was like, this is like max degree of difficulty knitting, and it's not.
No.
There's a lot to keep track of. However, once you sort of get it, it's such a mindfully written pattern.
Yes.
There are all these little details, and when she told me
38
38 pages, I bought it and I was just like, what have I done? What have I signed up for? She who knits on a US 10 stockinette 14 sweaters. Like I was like, what have I done? 38 pages, I'm flipping and flipping. But there are all these like really clever details. The way that the designer Emily Green has sort of designed it, it makes it so that you really can read your knitting. I really, when Carmen was like, I'm looking at this and she's like, you know what, I didn't even like have the 38 pages with me. I didn't need to. And also the bobbles were fun. And also there's not a lot of purling. I was like, these are not things that you would think looking at the finished object, and they are absolutely all true.
Yeah.
So they're garter bobbles that you don't need to use a crochet hook. So there is sort of turning back and forth.
But because it's in pieces, you're not turning an entire sweater back and forth.
Yeah.
You're just these little parts.
Yes, and if there is a lot of seaming, but I learned about seaming, and I think I didn't seam because I thought it was really complicated. And once I sat down and put on a Harry Potter movie and just decided I'm going to seam this thing through this movie, it happened, and it's kind of magic.
When you pull it up and it goes like,
so it's a
like
mattress stitch, right?
Yeah. Oh,
it's very satisfying.
Really good. It's like when
really
you watch
satisfying.
those YouTube videos of like things like machinery making something in like factories, and you're like, it's stirring something. You're like, I could watch this for days. Like, yeah, it's like that.
And there's just all these like mindful little details. Like I've mattress seamed another pattern before, and I found it really difficult to like line it up so that the seam sort of lines up together. But the designer has thought about this, and she the way that you knit it, it's like you know exactly how to follow. And I actually carried a lot of the stuff that I learned from this knit into the Twigs Symphony.
I'm not surprised because I've brought things too. It really makes sense.
So I mean, I'm just so delighted this is done. I may never take it off, and now we're twinsies. And what did I want to say? So what this, as I laid out all of my knits that I was going to show, I realized that what I've been doing is I've been searching for the perfect shawl collar.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And every single thing that this to me is a iteration of the shawl collar that is gorgeous and I love, and cables and bobbles are so cozy. But there's one more finished object that's an old finished object that I want to bring on again as an example of the ultimate shawl collar.
It's funny because I thought you were going to talk about what we're going to be casting, but I guess we talked about that last time. For the ultimate shawl collar, the big cozy color.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's like
also
almost only shawl collar.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh yes, this one. Okay. So Jackie said twice about things about me, which she first like impressions that she had of me. This sweater was the first time I saw Jackie ever actually, like in kind of like, this was on the Zoom call and this is what she showed. This was at the bingo ball. And I was like, oh, look at this. And I like this girl and I'm going to be friends with this girl. And I remember Jackie going, what's it knitted? And like Jackie from Caddy Jackson, she goes, what's it knitted? And she's like, oh no, it's Nutiden, right? And I was like, oh, she only knits in Nutiden. This is really cute. Oh,
okay. So this is another Ailbiona McLochlainn.
Oh, it's so pretty, Jackie.
This is the circle. I don't know how to say this one either.
I thought it's spelled differently, but it sounds like circle, doesn't it? Maybe not.
So this, if you watch Caddy Jacks, you will have seen a version of this. But beautiful. It is like a pie shawl that you attach arms to. So you knit it in the round.
See the little round here.
You can see the little round here. You knit it in the round. You put some of your stitches on waste yarn, and then you knit the arms in the round, and then you do this epic rib collar. So
I feel like I have to try this one on too because I want to see what this looks like.
So I knit this last year. And
2 years ago.
2 years.
You had it.
Yeah.
At the bingo ball.
And I'll be honest, it was a labor of love.
Yeah.
Because this shawl collar is a lot of ribbing.
That's a lot. 2x2?
2x2. 2x2. So this is Nutiden Yarn held double. It's the colorway Viltspar. So if you're thinking about knitting this, here are my tips. Some of you might do sleeves and then body when you're like knitting a garment. This is one where I think that it's helpful to do the sleeves as soon as possible.
Oh, okay.
So that you can start trying it on. Because the construction is kind of unconventional.
Oh, I see, yes.
And it is really all about proportion and drape and sizing to see how it fits.
Yes.
Right? And so it's helpful to have sleeves so that you can knit, and then you can start to knit the collar, and then you can decide like how deep and how wide you want the collar to be. So for the longest time, I had the sweater. It was like my cozy reading sweater because it just hugs you in the most amazing way. And I always said that I would get a shawl pin to like pin it here. But it's fun because there's so many ways that you can style it. So one is like open, two is to, get a button or a sort of shawl pin. Then I thought you can also get two pins.
Oh, yes.
And kind of do it like this. Like I never wear it out, but I'm like, this basically, it could be like a little coat.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, I love it.
And then the most amazing discovery happened when Caitlin of Caddy Jacks knit her version, am I doing this correctly, in which she styles it upside down. And guys, this is the winner of the most epic shawl collar contest. Got this right?
Yep. Oh my god. Look at that.
Like, this is the shawl collar of my dreams. Bigger is better. And it's just so amazing to me.
It's beautiful.
Like, yeah. So Ailbiona, it's an interesting thing because Ailbiona, I would say, for a lot of folks who have been knitting with Nutiden, she makes a lot of patterns that are designed in Nutiden and designed for unspun. She has a lot of patterns that are not unspun and like exclusive, and you can go back and forth. But it's kind of nice, particularly if you're working with a new yarn, to be perhaps choosing to knit a pattern that was designed in it so that it feels a little bit easier. And so a lot of people speak about Ailbiona as being somebody whose designs have really great fit. And my personal experience of Ailbiona's patterns and the shape of my body is that I've knit a couple things and the fit is not bad, but there are these like little tweaks, or there are things that don't always work, and just in terms of the proportions of the schematics, particularly around shoulders and necklines. But this is a pattern that I'm just like, because of it, I feel like this is a pattern that you could make work for you through this process of like trying things on and trying it on as you go.
Try it on upside down.
Try it on upside down. And so
oh my
that's
god,
my last.
It is really beautiful.
And so I feel like I have knit one thing and have a gajillion outfits. Like I love like the convertible, and this is now my new favorite way to wear it. Because it just, to me, it looks so dressed.
It is. It's very.
It went from like, to me, it went from like a cozy
reading
sweater to like,
or yoga, or like shavasana kind of sweater.
Yeah. To so. Do you want to try it on?
Yes. Always. I've actually been so intrigued by this one. I should do.
Where is the Can I try on your elbow?
Yes. Yes, please. Did I? Probably, yes. Inside out, as always. Okay, which side do I start with? Let me start with this one. Here, hold on a second. We're going to leave you for a sec. Let me make sure. Oh! Do I have that on right? Does it look good with a flannel shirt? Oh, look at how cute and short it is. Oh, I love this. It's like a little oh. Come on.
Come on.
Jackie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's so, oh, this is pretty. I think I'm gonna have to do this.
500 grams of Nutiden yarn.
500. I might have some of that around. Ooh, it's so pretty. I like this little like
the short.
It's like a crop, especially on me, right? Because I have a longer torso, so it's like a
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a stole.
Yes. Like a shrug or something. Yeah. Oh, it's so pretty.
It looks so good on you.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna put it the other way too.
Yeah.
Look at this. It looks so good on you, Jackie.
Oh my
See?
gosh.
Hot pink.
Hot
we
pink.
knew it. We knew it.
Hot pink.
How do you ever remember which direction?
I don't. I put it on and then I'm like, how much collar do I have around? Do I have like a large amount of collar? Do I have an extra large amount of collar?
I know, because when you first put it on, I thought you had it on the upside down one, and then it's like, oh no. Oh, this is so cute.
I think in this direction, it looks better on you than it does on me.
In this direction?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so. Ooh.
I also just love so I did not, again, with the ribbing,
yes.
I steam blocked this because I wanted to keep
the structure of
as much structure as is possible. And so one of the things that I will say about Nutiden is that depending on the composition of each of the colorways, some of them tend to be a little bit drapier. And so if you're knitting it double stranded on a larger needle, like a wet block will bring out the drape and in doing so sort of minimize the squish.
Right.
So this one I just steam block because that collar, which is all ribbing, I was like, I want to maintain the max squishiness. But I do think that this is a pattern where choosing an unspun yarn gives you an advantage.
Yeah.
Or choosing a yarn that has a balance of sort of structure and drape. Because I think that if you, for example, were knitting this in something that had a lot of structure, then you're not gonna have the ability for it to kind of mold around you.
Yeah. Oh, it's so pretty. This is what happens. We have our long like lists of cues that we have, and then we get together and then they expand by every project because now I have to make this. Didn't think. Do you know I have like this is crazy. I have never knit an Ailbiona sweater or anything.
Pattern.
I don't think I have. I have a million in my I've bought a million. Just haven't. I don't know why. And every
Because
time
they're
I
all
try,
bulky weight.
well,
And you keep
maybe.
casting on
Yes, I
fingering
do.
and DK weight projects because
But
that's what you love.
I just don't know why. I like at a Versal. I know I'm gonna love that because it has a saddle shoulder and I love saddle shoulders. But look at how pretty this is. Look
Look how pretty this is.
how pretty that is. You're getting some hot pink, right? Because look at you. You're like literally glowing.
I am glowing. I feel like a bauble.
Yeah.
Like a Christmas bauble in the best way.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
So all the cardigans and all the shawl collars.
Yes,
And
that's right. And more to come because
more to
we're
come.
going to be making the big cozy party. There's a knit along for that too.
Is
Farmer's daughter Fibres is having one of those. Yeah. Because as I'm talking, the one thing is if you have long earrings, this is getting caught. But I did want to I wanted to shout out also my earrings, which are
So beautiful.
these are porcupine quills.
Oh, cool.
And I got these from a company called Beyond Buckskin, which is an indigenous woman who sells indigenous like fashion made by indigenous people. And these earrings, I'm just going to read it because I was like, oh. These earrings were made by Ojibwe artist Tashina Lee Emery, hope I've got the pronunciation right, and feature natural porcupine quills encased in acrylic. The quills in each earring are from Native American art originating from pre-colonial times. The quills are encased in the clear glue like ice, representing the preservation of cultural and identity over time and concealing the sharp edges of difficult memories.
It's so beautiful.
I bought these actually about a year ago, and I looked today to see they're still on the website, but not it says right now they're out of stock, but they're handmade, so you could always contact and see if they're going to be making more. Oh my god, I love them. I love them, and they feel really nice.
I think they're really like natural. I like the natural tones in it.
Yeah.
It's a nice like often statement earrings are in their own way really shiny and beautiful, and I like the like it kind of reminds me of not tortoise shell, but it's like a statement earring that is
has a neutral
tone.
Yeah. Funny enough that you would like that.
Shocking.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Wowza.
Well, believe it or not, there are more finished objects.
I was gonna say,
but I feel like we're at
and I've got
2.5 hours.
a whip and things, but we can do it. I feel like we covered a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. So we hope that we've offered you a little bit of inspiration. Our cowl. Yes. Thank you. Take it away.
Which I really hope I have a sweater to show. It's possible that I will not, but I might have something else. Well, I did have a hat. Thank God I made that quick hat because I'm getting distracted as usual by other things and beautiful, beautiful tests and stuff. But I did want to say, do you have a picture of what I sent you? We have a new prize that we are giving with the cowl. I emailed it to you?
Did. Yeah.
I meant to prepare for this and then of course didn't, but a beautiful maker who is part of a group that I'm part of. That's our pre-knitting group that I've talked about with Miss Evil from Evil Knits. This wonderful woman, Dora, her son has started a business in metalworking and creating, I think, metal jewelry. And one thing that he's making are shawl pins. Funny enough, Jackie, too bad we didn't have it with us right now. I could be putting it right here. They're donating a shawl pin as one of our prizes for our knit along, our Inspired by Ellen knit along. It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
We will post some pictures of this too. I'll put it on Instagram. I wanted to wait until we had this podcast, but I'll put it on Instagram to just put that out there as well. So we've got our sweaters quantity of Nutiden yarn that we're going to give away, and then there will be another draw for this shawl pin, handmade by this, you know, phenom metal worker who's just starting off on his business, which is really exciting. So wanted to share that.
Yeah, so the Inspired by Ellen knit along runs until the end of this month, January 31st, 2023. And so if you would like to enter one of your finished objects for one of the prizes, you can do so in one of two ways. One is to make a post on Instagram using the hashtag inspired by Ellen, KALFO. And then also if you go to our Ravelry group, which we'll link below, there's a thread for the Inspired by Ellen KL finished objects, and you can enter there if you're not on social media. And if you're on neither Instagram nor Ravelry, then just send us a message or leave a comment and let us know, and we're gonna be sort of pooling all of the entries together using a random number generator and picking out two, and so we can also accommodate sort of entries that are not in those two places. So leave us a comment, and maybe you can email us a picture of your finished object or something like that. We'll figure it out. So yeah, before, let's say, January 31st, at 11:59:59 EST, we'll be accepting entries for that.
We're gonna check though, so just make sure that gets in there, because if it's past midnight, we're
Game
harsh.
over.
That's it.
But that's the end of the knit along, and we'll announce and contact the winners on our next episode, which we expect will probably be in February.
Oh yeah, right. We won't have another one probably before then.
Probably not.
Yeah. Can you just look up, sorry, that email again? The problem is that I use my phone, so that I don't have, when I set this up in the morning, I can't even, like, last minute, which is what I need, is last minute, like, oh God, I gotta get this information. I can't get to it because it's already on there. Is his name, I think it's Piero. Did she put it in? Oh, darn it. Did I send you all of them? Maybe nothing at the beginning. Carmen. Piero, I think his name is. And so we're going to put his website as well in the information below as well. I will put that in the in my Instagram as well, just to make sure I'll link him and everything so you can find his wonderful work. Sorry for not remembering that that's so me.
Well, that's so us, and it's written. All the information
It will be
that is that should be provided, that will never show up on the screen because we don't edit, you will find eventually in the show notes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you for another year. We're excited. 2023 this is our first maybe full, like, you know, we hadn't started our podcast until May, I think. July.
Yeah, we started talking about it in May.
Yes, July, that's right.
And then
July.
we published in July.
Yeah. So we're excited about this year. Lots to come, lots of things that we're making, and it's been so beautiful. The connections we've made, but also we've been recently finding out about connections other people are making through the knit along, and through like some of the calls we did on the making app. Like, it's just, you know, it's just so heartwarming. Yeah. Because we value so much our knitting connection that we've developed, and then all the people that we're meeting. Like, you have to remind yourself that you've never actually seen this person in person. Like, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like when I see them, which I will like hug them and be like, I know you. Like, even though I've never seen you in person.
Was the podcast the first time that we'd seen each other in person?
Yeah.
I think that's possible. So we had like a fully virtual online relationship from like the bingo ball in January.
Go back to episode 0.5 because it's not episode 1. 'Cause that took a while to get to there.
Yeah.
That was our first time. Aww.
So, you know, I think it's so wonderful. We get a lot of messages about we wish that we had you know, a knitting buddy nearby. And of course, and also at least 50% of our relationship, actually a lot of our relationship is not in person. Yeah. Because that's just the nature of the world and
Yes.
being busy in terms of life, and so we've also made so many meaningful, inspiring, beautiful relationships with you through the comments.
They're wonderful.
We love having pod pals, and so we hope that this year will bring you comfort and joy and inspiration. No matter what it is that your craft is, no matter what it is that you're knitting, we hope that this has offered you some time to have joy.
Aw,
So we'll see you soon.